the greatest creator. There is a supernatural force in the universe, and this supernatural force is the greatest creator. 前言上帝篇前言 Preface to the chapter of the greatest creator. 写评 Where is the past of humankind? Where is the limit of humanity's future? Can human wisdom prevent an asteroid from colliding with Earth? If we don't know or can't, then let us seek God. The first sentence of chapter 25 of the Tao Te Ching states, "There is a being, wondrous and mysterious, existing before heaven and earth." The Bible begins by stating, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The Diamond Sutra says, "If one sees me through appearances and seeks me through sounds, that person is following a misguided path and cannot see the Tathagata, the greatest creator." The Book of Songs, the Ten of King One Great Brightness states, "This King One, with great care, serves God and enjoys many blessings." The renowned scientist Stephen Hawking wrote in Chapter 8, The Origin and Destiny of the Universe, in A Brief History of Time. The general theory of relativity itself cannot explain these features or answer these questions because it predicts that at the singularity of the Big Bang, the universe began with infinite density, and at that point, general relativity and all other physical laws break down. It seems that science has revealed a set of laws which, within the limits of the uncertainty principle, if we know the state of the universe at any moment, these laws will tell us how it evolves over time. These laws may have originally been established by God. One possible explanation is that God chose this initial structure of the universe for reasons beyond our comprehension. This certainly falls within the power of an omnipotent creator. Unless it was an act of God to create life like ours, explaining why the universe began in this manner is exceedingly difficult. Humans have 6 sensory organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So they have 6 perceptions: vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and spirituality. Humans use these 6 perceptions to communicate with the material world and the non-material world. If a person were blind, how could we convince them that light exists in the universe? How could we prove the existence of light? We would be unable to. Without sight, one cannot perceive light. If a person were deaf, how could we convince them that sound exists in nature? How could we prove the existence of sound? We would be unable to. Without hearing, one cannot perceive sound. If a person lacked spiritual awareness and was spiritually ignorant, how could we convince them that the greatest creator exists in the universe? How could we prove the existence of the greatest creator? We would also be unable to. Without spiritual awareness, one cannot perceive the greatest creator. Spiritual awareness is an innate instinct. Through spiritual awareness, one can fully perceive the existence of the greatest creator. Everyone has spiritual awareness, so why do they still fail to perceive the greatest creator? This is because their spiritual awareness is obscured or dull, similar to how impaired vision prevents one from seeing clearly. When vision declines, wearing glasses can help one see clearly. When spiritual awareness is dull, enhancing wisdom can help one perceive the greatest creator. Some have used a paradoxical question to try to deny the existence of the greatest creator. Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift? This question presents a dilemma. If you say no, it denies the greatest creator. If you say yes, it implies that the greatest creator cannot lift the stone he created, which also denies the greatest creator. Thus, no matter how you answer, the result is to deny the greatest creator, at least in terms of his omnipotence. The person who devised this paradox is either very clever or malicious, aiming to confuse people's spirituality and lead them away from the greatest creator. Such a person is either Satan or someone not favored by the greatest creator. Unable to partake in the truth, they attempt to make others believe it is unattainable, similar to the saying about sour grapes. The question, can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift, is a trap. Similar questions include, are you a thing? How should one answer this question? Whether you say yes or no, you fall into the designer's trap. For instance, answering I am not a thing or I am a thing leads to the same result. Therefore, paradoxical questions should not be answered directly with affirmation or denial. Instead, consider or counter-question based on the question itself. For example, in response to "Are you a thing?" you might ask, "Are you a thing?" to see how the questioner responds. In response to "Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift?" you might ask, "Can the greatest creator not lift a stone he has created?" The question, "Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift?" does not apply to the greatest creator himself, just as "Are you a thing?" does not apply to humans. Additionally, this question is inherently self-contradictory, meaning that any answer already implies a denial. Such questions have puzzled many philosophers and logicians. Here are some similar examples. Aren't you an animal born from your parents? Can eyes not see eyes? Isn't a person a non-animal? These types of questions cannot be answered directly but must be rephrased. The answer to the question of the greatest creator is, the greatest creator can create stones under any conditions. The greatest creator can lift stones under any conditions. Do you have further questions? If so, I can address them in this manner. First, I will ask, what does it mean to lift? If holding a stone with both hands and placing it above one's head constitutes lifting, then what about this definition? If not, what does lifting mean? If so, suppose the stone is the earth, and I stand upside down, holding the earth with both hands. Is the earth above my head then? You might argue that it isn't, because the earth is below my head. Fine. Then, if I move along the earth's meridian 360 degrees while performing the same action, the earth should be above my head at some point, right? No? So, which point in the universe is above us? Which point is below us? You might then argue that even though my hands are holding the earth and the earth is above my head, it's not me lifting it, but the earth's gravity pulling me. If so, we must first reconsider the meaning of lifting. What then is lifting? Regardless of how lifting is defined, by changing orientation, I can claim to have lifted the earth. If you agree that I lifted the earth, then I can prove that I did not lift it. So, does the question, can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift, hold? We must seek the greatest creator and understand the greatest creator. Otherwise, we will never grasp the origins of the universe, the origin of life, the past and future of humankind. We will also fail to understand animal instincts and the purpose of life. I am 46 years old and have worked in over 20 different professions: shepherd, farmer, laborer, youth league secretary, clerk, party branch secretary, instructor of a commune cultural propaganda team, fitter, electrician, auto mechanic, middle school teacher, office staff, office director, translator, driver, salesperson, grocery store manager, restaurant purchaser, bar attendant, nightclub manager, fast food manager, and real estate developer. Except for the roles of office director and restaurant purchaser, which I held for only 2 months each, I have worked in all other positions for more than 6 months. What have I gained from working in so many different occupations? The gain is that a life without faith and without a goal is like a cloud floating aimlessly in the sky, driven by the wind. A few years ago, a mysterious car accident I experienced personally prompted me to start exploring the meaning of life. What am I living for? For the motherland and the nation? Nonsense. I can't even solve my own survival problems. Yet I talk about the motherland and the nation. For my parents? Definitely not. Because if it were for them, I wouldn't be able to continue living after they passed away. For my partner? That's absurd. If I didn't exist, My partner might actually live better. For my children? No. Why do people without children still continue to live? My children have established their careers, so why should I keep living? Living not only doesn't help my children anymore, but it also adds trouble and burden to them. For myself? Ridiculous. I can't decide my own birth, nor can I decide my own death. If I could choose, I would prefer to have no life, to be a zero. So, who brought me into this world? Am I a random product of my parents' accidental union? Absolutely not. The universe is governed by laws and rules. Everything is inevitable, and there are no purposeless accidental events. Everything that exists has its own purpose. So, what is the purpose of my existence? I can't tolerate living such a vague and confused life. Either I die, or I live clearly and transparently. Even if I don't know where I came from, at least I need to know where I'm going. Otherwise, if I were to suddenly encounter another car accident and die tomorrow, wouldn't that be an injustice? Will money help me understand the purpose of life? It seems that no millionaire in the world has ever solved the problem of life's purpose. If I wait until I am rich, I might not have much energy or time left to figure it out before I die. Besides, money is not something that can be obtained just by wanting it. Otherwise, everyone would be billionaires. Will power help me understand the purpose of life? Throughout history, how many emperors and ministers have appeared? Yet which one of them understood the purpose of life? Who among them left us a treasury of classical advice? Will becoming a scientist help me understand the purpose of life? Even greats like Newton, Einstein, and Stephen Hawking didn't understand the origins of the universe, humanity, or life. Can I, after becoming a scientist, understand more than they did? Moreover, just as I am not naturally gifted with a singer's voice and cannot become a singer, can I become a scientist? I cannot dream such dreams. Will becoming some other kind of expert help me understand the purpose of living? Probably not, just like archaeologists and anthropologists who keep changing their theories about human origins. One moment they say humans originated in Europe, then Asia, then Africa, based on a few fossils they've uncovered. This kind of theory is unreliable, as they might discover another fossil somewhere and claim humans originated in Antarctica. Will reading the Bible help me understand the purpose of life? Perhaps I am not gifted, but after reading the Bible for years, I still haven't had an awakening. Where exactly is the kingdom of the greatest creator? Does it already exist, or will it come in the future? If it is in the future, then where and when will it happen? Is the future 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or 100 million years? My life is only a few decades. Can my body be resurrected? How is it resurrected? Jesus is God, no doubt about it. But are there other gods who can restrain Jesus? If there are no other gods, why did Jesus have to suffer? Why did almost all of Jesus' disciples die violently? Can't God control his own destiny? As God, why couldn't he protect his few disciples? Why must suffering be the path to future blessings? I hope that Buddhist scriptures can point me in the right direction. Buddhism discusses concepts such as past lives, future lives, samsara, karma, and the interplay of causal conditions, all of which are meaningful. But how exactly does karma transform? How should one live to ensure a better future life? Where exactly is the Western Pure Land? What is it like? I haven't read all the vast Buddhist scriptures, nor do I dare to make rash conclusions. But Buddhism has existed for over 2,000 years, and it still can't make people understand the purpose of life. If life is merely a process of suffering, why did the greatest creator create so many beautiful things for humans to enjoy? If the purpose of life is to become a Buddha, then what is a Buddha? How does one become a Buddha? What is the probability of becoming a Buddha? If 1,000 people practice Buddhism and only 2 to 3 people can become Buddhas, wouldn't the rest have wasted their life and lost their joy? Money, power, and status, scientists and other experts, Christianity, and Buddhism all have their own reasons, but none can make people live clearly and understandably. Moreover, as an ordinary person who can't even solve the problem of daily meals, how can I have the time to master social sciences natural sciences, and religion. Is there a shortcut? Can I bypass God's and human-acquired knowledge and seek the greatest creator directly, since only the greatest creator knows everything and has the final decision? Where can I find the greatest creator? Read the book without words by observing the sky, the earth, people, and things. Fortunately, I have engaged in over 20 different types of work, experienced many hardships, and, after graduating from high school, attended school 3 times, living in rural areas, small towns, and big cities. This allows me to connect various phenomena and events for chain thinking, but the result is still rather vague. Where is the problem? By chance, I read the Quran and was greatly inspired. The Quran says, "O assembly of jinn and mankind, if you are able to pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth, then pass. You will not pass except by authority." Yes. How can I escape the bounds of heaven and earth without borrowing the authority and help of the greatest creator? How to borrow the help of the greatest creator? Rely on spiritual awareness. Humans are part of the universe. Heaven and humans correspond. If a small thorn pricks the toe, the brain immediately senses it. If I send a thought fax to the greatest creator will surely know. Sure enough, the origins of the universe, life, humanity, and 36-dimensional spaces gradually appeared on the screen of my mind, and the issue of fate resolved itself without further explanation. At this point, I recognized the greatest creator, recognized God Jesus, recognized Buddha Shakyamuni, recognized celestial ancestor Laozi, recognized humanity, understood the universe, time, space, energy, and material, the physical body and the spiritual body, the essence of life, and the purpose of living. I recognize the greatest creator through spiritual awareness, but spiritual awareness can only be understood and cannot be conveyed. To spark interest, I used 40 natural phenomena and 8 logical inferences to forcibly prove the existence of the greatest creator and explain the 8 characteristics of the greatest creator and the 8 relationships between the greatest creator and humanity. Whether you can sense the greatest creator depends entirely on your own spiritual awareness and wisdom. 宇宙中有一个超自然灵魂证明上帝存在的40个例证。There is a supernatural soul in the universe, 40 evidence proving the existence of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Tsong Long and Ailian. Open the windows, the sunlight and fresh air will come in. Take a broad view, you will see the faraway mountains fresh and green. Stay and study in Life Genuine. A new life will begin. Your spirituality will grow, and your thinking will transcend the limitations of human nature and ethics. Once we calm our minds, we can feel that there is a supernatural power in control of the movement of the universe, the birth and death of all things, and the track of human life. No one can deny fate, yet no one can grasp their own fate. Everything around us seems to be prearranged by certain powers, and we are only moving according to the life courses assigned to us. So, does such a supernatural power exist? Is there a super wisdom in control of the entire universe? If there is not, then how did the universe come into being? Where did the variety of life forms on the earth come from? If there is, where could the supernatural power be? What is its form? Does it resemble a man? What characteristics does it have? Why can't we see it? Does it care for humankind? How does it manage this astronomical universe? How can we get to know it? wanna 有序运行的太阳系需要有人设计安排。The orderly operation of the solar system needs someone's design. Xiefeng. The solar system, with the sun at its center, consists of the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, comets, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, meteoroids, interstellar matter, the Earth's satellite moon, and other asteroids. Other celestial bodies revolve around the Sun, attracted by the Sun's gravitation. Among them, the 9 planets revolve in the same direction around the Sun along nearly round orbits in approximately the same plane. For billions of years, the solar system has been running in the Milky Way galaxy in an orderly manner, without any mistakes. The 9 planets, the Earth's satellite moon, and other asteroids have unfailingly maintained the order of the solar system, cooperating tacitly with each other, obedient and conforming. There has never been any bullying. There is a high degree of organization, discipline, and unity. If any planet does not obey the command and acts on its own, the whole solar system will immediately be knocked over by other stellar systems in the galaxy. The main task of the whole solar system is to sustain life on Earth. If this order is disturbed, humans will also perish. To live harmoniously, even a big family of about a dozen people needs some domestic disciplines to keep it in line. A company, no matter how small, must have rules and regulations to survive and develop. A house should have a design before builders can begin work. How the doors, windows, kitchen, living room, bedrooms, and bathroom should be arranged. To survive, even a pack of wolves, a swarm of bees, a cohort of ants, or a flock of sheep must have a leader in charge. Otherwise, the result will be a state of disunity and chaos. Let's take a look at the general manager's office. The desk, chairs, bookshelf, sofas, tea table, telephone, and other objects are all arranged in an orderly manner. The tea table will not be placed on the desk, and the chairs will not be put on the sofas. Why? Because they have already been designed and arranged. Let's have a look at the workshops of a factory. The lathes, milling machines, planers, drill presses, workbenches, grinders, and tool cabinets are arranged in an orderly manner. They are not randomly placed or cluttered together. Why is that? It's because someone is organizing and arranging them. Let's take a look at the assembly workshop of TV sets. There is a strict order for the assembly of different components. Is this order formed naturally? Of course not. Someone is doing the design and arrangement. Let's take a look at everything in nature and every activity in human society. It is not difficult to discover that all have been organized and arranged by someone or some certain brain. Then, how about the orderly functioning of the solar system? Is it not designed by someone? By logical reasoning, we can infer that there must be someone in charge of the creation and arrangement of the solar system. But who is this someone? He must be the designer and organizer of the universe and the wise omniscience, the greatest creator. 凸地球至太阳的距离是刻意安排的。The distance from the Earth to the Sun is the result of deliberate arrangement. The distance from the Earth to the Sun is 147 million kilometers, which is the ideal distance for the Earth to absorb solar energy. If it were too far, the Earth would be a cold and bleak place. If it were too close, the Earth would become a flaming globe. You may have experienced warming yourself by a fire on cold winter days. Your distance from the fire is determined by its size. If you are too close to the fire, the heat will be unbearable, but if you are too far, you cannot absorb the heat. You will automatically adjust yourself to an appropriate distance that is not too warm to bear. Now, let's do a calculation. Imagine yourself as the Earth and the fire as the Sun. What will be the proportion? Let's suppose the proportion is x. Then the proportion from the Sun to the Earth is also x. That is to say, the distance between the Sun and the Earth is not a matter of coincidence but a deliberate arrangement. Except for the greatest creator, who else could have done that? 3. 地球的自转是有意安排的，自转的速度是经过精确的计算确定的。The rotation of the Earth is a planned arrangement, and the velocity of the rotation has been accurately calculated. If we keep facing the fire, we feel comfortable on the front of our body but still cold on our back. At this time, we will unconsciously turn around and let our back face the fire. After some time, we will turn around again. In such a case, Wouldn't it be ideal for us to sit in an automatically rotating chair so that our entire body can evenly receive warmth? However, the rotation should not be too fast. Otherwise, we will feel dizzy and cannot see the objects around us clearly. More dangerously, we might be thrown off the chair. Too slow a rotation won't do either. One side of the body is warm enough, but the other side is in urgent need of heat, and yet the chair has not turned around. We can certainly find an optimum rotation speed that can make us feel comfortable and evenly warmed. The Earth is rotating at an ideal speed. It rotates at nearly 28 kilometers per minute and completes one rotation in 24 hours. This speed ensures that both the eastern and western hemispheres can receive heat evenly, and that animals, plants, and humans can have time for labor and rest respectively. If the Earth did not rotate, the eastern hemisphere would be forever facing the sun, making it unbearably hot, while the western hemisphere would be in eternal darkness, unbearably cold. Vice versa. If the rotation speed of the Earth were too fast, for example, if it rotated once every 12 hours, then there would only be 3 hours for each morning, noon, afternoon, and night. We would not have enough time to sleep, and the sun would rise very early in the morning. When we woke up, it would still be dark outside. Then should we get up or continue sleeping? If the rotation speed were too slow, for example, one rotation every 36 hours, there would be 18 hours of daylight and 18 hours of darkness. How should we humans plan our daily routines? Not to mention the excessive or insufficient time for plant photosynthesis and the abnormal climate it would cause. The rotation of the Earth and the speed of rotation are intentionally and meticulously designed by the greatest creator. If you are not convinced, just try it yourself and see whether you can come up with a better arrangement.
4. 地球环绕太阳运行及运行的速度是严格按照物质运动规律设置的。
The Earth orbits the Sun, and its running speed is in strict accordance with the laws of physical movement. The Earth orbits the Sun at a speed of 29.8 kilometers per second, which does not allow for the slightest error. If the speed exceeds 29.8 kilometers per second, the Earth will fly off its orbit along the tangent and enter the vast universe. Life on Earth will go extinct due to a lack of appropriate light and heat from the Sun. If the speed is slower than 29.8 kilometers per second, the Earth will fail to reach escape velocity and be drawn to the Sun, falling towards it just like an apple falls to the ground. Isn't that terrible? It is well known that Earth's satellites should orbit at a speed of 7.9 kilometers per second. If the speed is faster, they will not be able to fly around the Earth along a certain orbit. If the speed is slower, the satellites will fall down to the Earth. The speed must reach 111.8 kilometers per second to escape the constraint force of the Earth. The speed must reach 166.7 kilometers per second to escape from the solar system. These are absolute numerical values that allow for no exception or negotiation. Now, think it over. Why should the Earth revolve around the Sun at exactly 29.8 kilometers per second? Why not any other numerical value? Without the calculation and arrangement of a superwise being, is it possible for the Earth to run for 4.6 billion years, obediently, meticulously, and voluntarily? 5. The tilting of the Earth is deliberately set up.
5. 地球的倾斜是特意的设置。
As for the Earth's orbit, it is tilted at a gradient of 23.5 degrees. You can use a globe as a sample. Without the tilting, there would be no alternating seasons on Earth. The equator would be unbearably hot, the temperate zone would be turned into the frigid zone, and Siberia and Russia would be part of Antarctica. If the tilting were at 90 degrees, the ice and snow in Antarctica would all be melted, and the Earth would be a complete ocean, with no single stretch of land. Can the Earth tilt at 24 degrees or 23 degrees? Absolutely not. If the Earth tilted at 24 degrees, all coastal cities would be submerged by water. If the Earth tilted at 23 degrees, the Earth would suffer from severe water shortage, and many rivers would disappear. Just imagine, would it work without the computation and design of a superwise being? Then, who is this superwise being? Neither you nor I, but the greatest creator. 6. The moon is the guarantee of life on Earth. 6. 月球是地球上生命的保证。First, let's look at some moon-related figures. The moon is 380,000 kilometers away from Earth, and its mass is approximately 1/81st of Earth's mass. The moon completes a circle around Earth every 25 hours. It takes 27.3 days for the moon to go along its orbit as well as auto-rotation for one circle. The time interval between the first full moon and the next is 29.5 days. It tilts at 5 degrees in relation to the ecliptic, and its orbit is oval. The moon moves westward. These figures are crucial for life on Earth, and even the slightest changes could result in catastrophe. Some people have whimsically thought of blasting the moon. Others object to the idea, arguing that the moon should not be blasted because without the moon, man would lose some sentiment. However, the matter is not so simple. Without the moon's gravitational pull, there would be no seasonal changes, no ebb and flow in the oceans, and no wind, clouds, rain, snow, thunder, or lightning on Earth. Life would not exist. This simple truth doesn't need to be explained in detail, right? One might argue, if life on land disappears, does that mean life in the oceans would also cease to exist? The answer is yes, it would. Can life be born in a still ocean? Moreover, without the moon, we could not have inspiring moments like this. So bright a gleam on the foot of my bed. Could there have been frost already? Lifting my head to look, I found that it was moonlight. Sinking back again, I thought suddenly of home. Without the moon, life could not survive on Earth. Therefore, the moon is specially set up for the benefit of life on Earth, or we might say especially for humanity. Who has set up the moon? Our ancestors? Dinosaurs? Who but the greatest creator could have such power and capacity to hang the moon in the sky? 7. The distance between the moon and the Earth allows for no deviation. 7. 地球至月球的距离是丝毫都不能有偏差的。The distance between the Earth and the moon is 384,400 kilometers. If the distance were shorter, the Earth would be ravaged by raging gusts and torrential rains. If the distance were farther, there would be only gentle breezes, occasional drizzles on Earth, and there would no longer be great storms, typhoons, thunder, and lightning. In other words, life on Earth would suffer from bad weather and harsh environments. Just imagine what would happen if a jet plane skimmed just 1 meter above our heads. Not to mention the impact of the infrasonic and shock waves generated by the fast-flying plane. Even the whirls of air currents brought about by the flight would carry us off our feet. The tiles on the roofs would certainly be blown away, and a course of water gully and water wall would be formed when the plane skimmed over the water. Suppose the volume of the plane was equivalent to 3 football fields. What would happen if it flew past the surface of the Earth? The consequences would be catastrophic. In the area it passed by, there would be scenes of general turmoil and mess, with animals scampering for their lives, people and horses thrown off their feet, walls tumbling down, wind roaring, and waves billowing. The ships on the sea would be wrecked, and the coastal areas would be frequently pestered by sudden storms. If this situation were to occur every 25 hours, the survival of life on Earth would be unimaginable. What would happen if this plane were the moon? Not to mention the effects of other harsh elements on life. One flight of such a plane would bring 1/3 of the ocean's water to the land. If it flew around the globe once, the resulting hurricane would cause downpours to descend from the sky, and all the continents would be transformed into an ocean. Could life survive such a scenario? Therefore, the distance between the Earth and the moon cannot allow the slightest deviation. Then who designed such an appropriate distance? Undoubtedly, the design was made with accurate calculation by a superior being more intelligent than human beings. 8. Great storms, typhoons, and thunder and lightning are deliberately choreographed. 8. 大风大浪、台风和雷鸣闪电是有意编排的。 The occurrence of great storms, typhoons, thunder, and lightning is due to the existence of the moon. Without gales, the convection of hot and cold air on Earth would be impossible. Chilly and sweltering weather would continue for longer periods. Clouds over the ocean would not drift towards land, and there would be no rain or snow. Without billows, there would be no gales. Without typhoons, vapor over the ocean could not be carried to the plains and plateaus. Without thunder and lightning, the missing ozone layer would not be replenished in a timely manner. As a result, ultraviolet radiation and other cosmic rays would shine directly on humans, causing everyone to suffer from skin cancer. Without thunder and lightning, the air could not be cleaned, and countless viral bacteria would multiply uncontrollably. Humans would no longer multiply, and the Earth today would show no evidence of human footprints. 9. The whole solar system has been set up especially for humans.
9. 整个太阳系是专为地球人类而设置的。
We can see, as mentioned above, that the distances between the celestial bodies, the sizes of different celestial bodies, and their speeds of movement have all been accurately and meticulously designed and arranged in strict accordance with the scientific laws of the survival and development of matter. They definitely do not occur randomly or unintentionally. Some people may argue, the Sun and the Earth are extremely important to mankind, but the other celestial bodies in the solar system are just dispensable. Actually, this is not the case. Mercury, Venus, Mars, asteroid clusters, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are all set up to protect the Earth. They are additional bodies of the Earth and have been set up and arranged for man. A riddance of any heavenly bodies or a change to any factor will alter the orbit of the Earth, and humans will not survive on Earth. Life only exists on Earth in the entire solar system, and there is absolutely no life on other planets because they are appurtenances of the Earth. To discover the secrets of the universe, astronomers have created countless space telescopes to observe space all day and night. This is a tiring task. Actually, if only we are capable of calculating and thinking, we can calculate, starting from man's basic necessities for survival, the masses of the Earth, the Moon, and other celestial bodies, the distances between them, their orbits, and speed. Without looking up into the sky, we can know what is there beyond Pluto and whether Uranus has satellites. When we come to know that there are superior life spaces apart from human society, we can infer the size and structure of the entire universe. When we are aware of this, we will discover that there are no superfluous galaxies and celestial bodies in the universe, and each has its function and position. Suppose we are in a highly democratic and developed country. We can infer from the clean and tidy streets that the country has a highly efficient urban sanitation management organization. From the size of the city and its population, and the living standard and other factors, we can work out the number of dustmen in this city without counting them one by one from each street to lane. If the actual figure is one more than our calculation, it is also to account for the possibility of someone needing to be replaced temporarily due to unforeseen circumstances. 10. The Earth's skin, atmosphere.
10. 地球的皮肤大气层。
The atmosphere occupies the space from sea level to 1,000 kilometers above. 99% of the atmosphere is concentrated within a space of 40 kilometers from the surface of the Earth and above. The atmosphere is divided into the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere, according to the different chemical components within various altitude ranges. The range about 18 kilometers above sea level belongs to the troposphere. 99% of the troposphere consists of vapor. The climatic changes and natural phenomena of thunder and lightning, wind and rain, drifting clouds, evening or morning glow, and rainbows all occur in the troposphere. The atmosphere consists of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% of other gases, such as carbon dioxide, argon, and ozone. The aerosphere is the skin of the Earth without which the Earth would be as bleak and desolate as the Moon, Mars, and other celestial bodies. There would be no life on Earth. Then how did the Earth's skin come into being? Some may say the atmosphere occurs naturally. Then why is there no atmosphere on the Moon and Mars? The proportions of different gases in the atmosphere are just right. The increase or decrease of the proportions of any gases would be catastrophic to life on Earth. For example, oxygen accounts for only 21% of the atmosphere. The absence of oxygen will mean the instant death of humans and animals, and the reduced amount of oxygen will hinder the normal activities of humans and animals. It is impossible to carry out normal activities on the summit of Mount Everest in the Himalayas because of the scarcity of oxygen. Spacecraft must be equipped with adequate oxygen for astronauts to carry out normal explorative activities. If oxygen in the atmosphere accounts for more than 21%, people and animals in low-latitude regions may suffer poisoning, and inflammables in nature will be liable to spontaneous combustion. An iota of spark may trigger many things ablaze. Apart from moisture, sunlight, and carbon dioxide, plants also need a large amount of nitrogen oxide for their growth. If the content of nitrogen is less than 78%, no matter how often or on what scales thunder and lightning may occur, there won't be enough nitrogen oxide created for the absorption of plants on the surface of the Earth. The amount of carbon dioxide accounts for less than 1% of the atmosphere. The small amount of carbon dioxide is the core factor of the greenhouse effect, which maintains the global temperature between -21 degrees and 14 degrees Celsius. Without carbon dioxide, the ocean will freeze up and the plants will die out. However, with too much carbon dioxide, humans and animals may die of poisoning, and the temperature of the Earth may rise dramatically. We may ask, how did the atmosphere and the accurate proportions within the atmosphere come about? We cannot always attribute inexplicable phenomena to naturally formed as a matter of course, can we? Without the careful attention of parents, can a person grow up naturally after he was born? Is the electrical lighting we use generated naturally? Does a plane, weighing dozens of tons, fly naturally in the sky? Can we naturally reap a bumper harvest by simply throwing some seeds on the ground without hoeing the weeds, fertilization, and watering? In the universe, there is absolutely nothing that happens naturally or spontaneously. Everything is managed by a person or intelligence. In light of this, is there anyone who still doubts it? 11. The guardian of life, the ozone layer. 11. 生命的保护层，臭氧层. Up in the sky, between 20 and 30 kilometers from the Earth's surface, there exists a sky blue transparent sphere. It is the ozone layer in the stratosphere of the atmosphere, which is the guardian of life on Earth. Without it, cosmic rays, especially the ultraviolet rays emitted by the sun, would shine on humans and animals without any resistance. As a result, 99% of humans and animals would be inflicted with cancer and cataracts, and their immune systems would be weakened, making them susceptible to contagious diseases like the flu, which could wipe out entire populations. Because of this, the Vienna Conference in 1985 and the London Conference in 1990 established a resolution to protect the ozone layer. Why? First discovered by a German scientist in 1839, ozone is a relatively unstable light blue molecule composed of 3 oxygen atoms. The ozone molecule mainly results from the photolysis of intense ultraviolet radiation. The content of ozone accounts for less than 100,000th in the atmosphere. 90% of ozone is concentrated in the ozone layer, which absorbs and filters ultraviolet radiation waves that are readily absorbable by the nucleic acid in biological cells. Ranging in wavelengths between 240 nanometers and 320 nanometers, these ultraviolet radiation waves can cause the aforementioned diseases and pose a direct threat to the survival of life on Earth if they are absorbed by animals, plants, and humans. Ozone and the ozone layer are protecting humans, but the ozone inhaled by people near the ground is a harmful substance, which is capable of damaging lung tissues and the photosynthesis reaction system of plants. As a powerful photochemical oxidant, it can cause great damage to rubber, plastics, and the life of animals and plants. It can react with the hydrocarbon of automobile exhaust and volatile gasoline to generate organic pollutants like acetaldehyde and ketone. In 1973, two scientists from the University of California discovered that the synthetic substances known as CFCs had the ability to deplete the ozone layer. Meanwhile, human activities in the refrigeration and aviation industries were contributing to ozone generation. Human activities are pushing themselves to the brink of extinction, which has brought concern to scientists and far-sighted political leaders. This is why people should protect the ozone layer while preventing the increase of ozone in the troposphere, especially within the Earth's surface. The ozone layer also has other functions. For example, it can collide with meteorites in space, burning and digesting them in the ozone layer. Without this protection, the Earth would be littered with meteorites, and the planet's weight would not be the same as it is today. The Earth would have fallen into the sun long ago. I am not here to discuss how to protect the ozone layer, but to illustrate that the ozone layer in the atmosphere has not formed naturally. It is not dispensable but has been carefully designed and arranged by the greatest creator. 12. The blood of the earth, water. 12. 地球的血液, soy. Can we perceive the existence of the greatest creator through water? To answer this question, first, we will have a look at the properties of water, the functions of water, and the circulation of water. Water is composed of countless water molecules that are made up of one oxygen atom and two hydrogen atoms. One side of the water molecule, the side with hydrogen atoms, is the anode, and the other side is the cathode. Since like charges repel each other, but opposite ones attract, then the anode of a water molecule is linked to the cathode of another water molecule. As a result, as long as they exist in the same place, container, all the water molecules will be linked together and form the water that we commonly refer to because all the molecules have anodes and cathodes. Pure water is colorless, tasteless, and odorless. Its pH value is 7, neither acidic nor alkaline. Water is the only substance in nature that can exist in three forms: solid, liquid, and gas. It has greater solubility than any other liquid. So, water can transport valuable chemical elements, minerals, and nutrients to plants, animals, and the human body very easily. Water freezes and changes into a solid state at 0 degrees Celsius and becomes boiling water at 100 degrees Celsius. When the surface of water is irradiated by heat, the water molecules on the surface can become vapor and change into a gas state. Water can absorb and disperse heat. Water has very strong surface tension. When the sun shines on the water surface, the heated water will evaporate and become vapor, which can continuously rise in the troposphere until the strong wind brings it to the distant sky over the land, where the rising warm air current from the heated land surface will force it to continue the ascent until it meets the cold air current. The temperature and the vapor content decrease dramatically in the troposphere with the increase of altitude. When vapor meets the cold air current, it will revert to the state of liquid. When the temperature is cold enough, the vapor will change into minute crystal particles and form clouds when combined with dust, soot, and salt crystals. When these minute water granules combine to form larger water drops, they will fall to the ground in the form of rain as a result of the gravitation of the earth. Some of the falling rain returns to the oceans through the brooks and rivers, while some infiltrates underground to become groundwater. The groundwater can flow out to become surface water after hundreds of years and finally returns to the oceans. Some of the rain immediately changes into vapor after falling to the ground. The Earth is a closed system for the circulation of water. The total amount of water on Earth will neither increase nor decrease. Therefore, there will be no change in the total amount of water on Earth, no matter whether it is absorbed by plants, animals, and humans, or used to wash diapers, or has evaporated and risen up in the sky, whether it has flowed into sewage pipes or infiltrated underground. Perhaps the water molecule you are drinking was once drunk by Jesus or Sakyamuni, or used to wash a mother's diapers. The total amount of water on Earth is 326 million cubic miles, of which the ocean takes up 97.24%, glaciers and icebergs account for 2.14%, groundwater accounts for 0.61%, and rivers only account for 0.0001%. Let's see if there is the greatest creator in water accordingly. Without water, the earth is nothing but a lifeless desert. No matter how capable humans are, they cannot create water. In addition, people would have perished long ago without water, let alone create it. That is to say, the water on earth is created by someone who does not need water. Who can exist without water? Someone wise may claim that water is not created. It is something that has existed on earth since time immemorial. If this opinion is correct, we can be sure that the earth has neither past nor future but is timeless in existence. Then astronomers and scientists' assertion that the earth was born 4.6 billion years ago is purely a traveler's tale. Furthermore, since the earth has existed since time immemorial and the earth is only a small component of the universe, there will be no question of the birth of the universe, and the universe must also have existed since time immemorial. Since the universe has no beginning, then all the celestial bodies and galaxies in the universe must be timeless and eternal. So it is absolutely impossible for meteorites to fall on the earth. Otherwise, the meteorites may have fallen from nowhere. Now that meteorites have fallen on the earth, it means that changes have occurred in space, or certain celestial bodies have encountered disaster. The disaster that befalls on one celestial body will, in turn, affect the surrounding celestial bodies and trigger changes in other related celestial bodies. Thus, will some celestial bodies perish someday? Will some new celestial bodies come into being? If a celestial body comes and goes, then undoubtedly the earth can also come and go. If the earth has a beginning, it is impossible that the earth has possessed all the things now on earth from the very beginning. There must have been a process of generation and development. So, where does water come from? If we say that the water on earth has come into being naturally, then the following questions need to be answered. Why is water colorless, tasteless, and odorless? What if water has color, for example, if water is red or black? What if water has taste, for example, if water is spicy, sour, or astringent? What if water has a smell, for example, if water emanates a fragrant or fishy smell? Why does water have very powerful solubility? What will happen if water cannot dissolve the food we have eaten and the drugs we have taken? If water cannot dissolve the red blood cells and white blood cells growing in the marrow, and if water cannot dissolve minerals, chemicals, and other nutritional substances? Why does the pH value of purified water stand at 7? What will happen if the pH value is smaller or greater than 7? Why does water have 3 states: gas, liquid, and solid? What will happen if water is only in the state of liquid and no gaseous or solid state? Will there be changes in the climate on Earth if water cannot turn into vapor? Can we still see the blue sky, white clouds, morning or evening glows? If water cannot change into a solid state at low temperatures and form a layer of ice on the lake surface to block the harsh cold, will the fish not be frozen to death? How much land will be left if the ice that accounts for 2.14% of the total water amount has melted into water? Why does water have a lower density in its solid state compared to its liquid state? Assuming that the density of solid water is greater than that of liquid water, the ice formed on the surface of a river will continuously sink. The rivers, lakes, and oceans will all turn into blocks of ice. When will the heat of the sun melt the ice? And will there still be life in the fish, shrimp, turtles, and other creatures frozen in the ice? Why does water have a powerful function in absorbing and releasing heat? If water cannot absorb heat, the temperature in areas close to the equator during summer would be enough to cause heat stroke in animals and humans. The heat from our car engines would not be carried away by water, and thermal expansion would cause the engine pistons to seize in the cylinder. If water does not have a strong heat dissipation function, winter and temperate regions, especially coastal areas, would become extremely cold, and the heat inside the engine would not dissipate. Why does water boil at 100 degrees Celsius? If water could boil at 20 degrees Celsius instead of 100 degrees Celsius, many rivers, lakes, and oceans would become steam pots, and we could directly catch cooked fish from them to eat. If water boiled at 150 degrees Celsius, we would not be able to cook food using ordinary pots, and we would not be able to cook food at all in areas above 3,000 meters above sea level. Why does water have a very strong surface tension? If water did not have a very strong surface tension, how could it be absorbed by the root systems of plants and enter the veins of trees to bring nutrients to leaves and fruits? How could it move inside the capillary vessels of humans and animals and transport nutrients to the surface layer of skin and internal organs? Well, that's enough about water for now. Just imagine, if water were not created by the greatest creator through careful arrangement, would it be possible for nature to create water with the special functions mentioned above? 13. Cheap and essential daily necessity, salt. 13. 价廉物美的日用品盐. When I was a child, I used to see a woman with an extremely large neck in our village. Every time I saw her, I would involuntarily take more glances at her. Later, I asked my grandma, "Why is her neck so big?" Grandma replied, "According to doctors, because she did not have enough iodized salt." When I was young, there were a fairly large number of mentally challenged people in the two neighboring villages. I asked my father, "Why are there so many retarded people in those two villages?" My father responded, "Possibly because they have had too much salt from Bayan Gully." Let me talk a little bit about my hometown in this paragraph. I spent my early childhood in my hometown where the Yellow River and Dasha River met. My family had an orchard and vegetable garden, from where I could look westward at the spectacular view of the Yellow River falling from the sky, which glittered in the sunshine. To the north, across the river, were the beautiful scenes of Wangjia Mountain and Wangjia Plain, and the flocks of horses, cattle, and goats on the shoals. To the south, wire-pulled boats and sheepskin rafts were ferrying passengers across Dasha River. To the east, cascades of houses were shaded and embraced by green trees. The two springs near the village were warm in winter and cool in summer. All year round, clear and sweet water flowed from these springs, and I grew up drinking their water until I became a teenager. Who doesn't say my hometown is good? But my hometown was exceptionally beautiful. Unfortunately, my hometown has now become the territory of the Dragon King. The construction of the Lujiaxia Reservoir has created tremendous wealth for the 5 provinces and autonomous regions in northwest China, but at the same time, it has sacrificed my hometown. The building of the motherland requires everyone's sacrifice, and this is very reasonable. But what remains depressing is that, dear motherland, you have forgotten the people who have dedicated their homeland. I was barely a teenager when I left my beloved hometown and migrated to a new place, which was intersected with ravines. There was barren soil, endless desolation, and no more beautiful scenery. What remained were the primordial scenes of struggling for survival. My uncle had to leave for other places with my cousins and beg for food. These scenes are still vivid and fresh in my mind, and each time I recall them, my tears flow. Motherland, can't you make some compensation for your faithful children who have sacrificed for you? Yes, you can and you did. Every time you only gave us a set of selected works of Mao Zedong for consolation. Your representatives came 5 times, so our family got 5 sets of selected works of Mao Zedong. The spiritual power is infinite, and the force of example is immense. But you have overlooked the fact that we are merely ordinary people. Even if you have piled my house and courtyard with selected works of Mao Zedong, we still need food and clothes, and need to get married. Motherland. Have you ever thought about the lives of those poor people who have sacrificed their homeland for you when you spent hundreds of millions of RMB decorating Chang'an Avenue? Now let me return to the topic. There is a deep gully called Bayan Gully near the 2 villages just mentioned. In the gully, there flows a gurgling stream, not of clear spring water, but of salty and turbid water. In order to save a few coppers earned from selling eggs while having salt, The people there made salt from the water of Bayan Gully. The question of whether the people in the two villages got retarded from eating the salt from Bayan Gully can be left to scientists. We can infer from the two examples that salt is extremely important to humans. In human history, the salt business was very profitable. Salt merchants were the symbol of wealth. Countless fights and wars have broken out between men for the control of salt origin and the channel of salt business. In ancient times, soldiers were offered salt as a prize, and laborers were also paid by salt. When salt became a rarity, it was more valuable than gold. Just like water and air, none of us can live without salt. Our daily food can dispense with any other seasoning, but not salt. Apart from water and air, salt is the most important necessity for life among natural resources. The main component of salt is sodium chloride. Rock salt, lake salt, salt bed salt, and sea salt may differ in their respective structures and composition. For example, the refined salt we usually purchase from stores is cubic crystal in structure, while the lake salt is polygonal crystal. The best salt should be sea salt made through the sunlight-caused evaporation of seawater. Such salt contains over 80 minerals needed by the human body, including iodine, calcium, potassium, magnesium, aluminum, barium, chromium, iron, manganese, fluorine, zinc, nickel, copper, phosphorus, and the like. Salt is not only a superior seasoning and preservative, but also the key substance to keep us healthy and vigorous. Salt can help the digestion of food and transfer nerve impulses to muscle tissues. But consuming too much salt can damage the heart, cause high blood pressure, and lead to overweight, as well as the decline of kidney function, the disorder of menstruation, and edema. The most important thing for life is air. Without air, man will die immediately, so there must be an adequate supply of air to guarantee the viability of life. The second most vital thing is water. Without water, man cannot survive for long, so there must be a great reserve of water to keep life going. The third most important thing for life is salt. Without salt, man can survive for a longer time, but will eventually die of weak limbs and frail body. Therefore, it is also necessary to have a certain amount of salt in store which can be obtained with little effort. When we shop for salt, we will find that salt is lower priced in comparison with other goods. As for gold, pearls, and diamonds, they are only ornamentals for life and are not necessities, so they are scarce in amount and not easily obtained. If seawater is not salty, there will be no salt on earth. Since seawater is inexhaustible, we will never be short of salt. Now let's see. For life in nature, the more important things are, the greater their supply. The less important things are, the smaller their supply. Is this simply a matter of unconscious coincidence of nature? Or is it a purposeful arrangement by some mysterious power? 14. Photosynthesis, the source of food for life. 14. 光合作用，生命食粮的源泉。To survive, humans need not only air, water, and salt, but also need to absorb nutrients, mainly carbohydrates. Where do carbohydrates come from? They come from photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process by which plants and other organisms use light energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into the nutrients they need, specifically carbohydrates. The human body cannot conduct photosynthesis, and neither can any other animals. Photosynthesis mainly occurs within green plants. Therefore, humans must rely on green plants. Photosynthesis can be briefly described as follows. When sunlight shines upon the leaves of plants, it will be captured by chlorophyll in the cells of leaves. The light energy captured by chlorophyll will decompose the water entering the leaves via roots into hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen will be released through the pores on the leaves, while hydrogen will be kept within the leaves and will react with carbon dioxide entering the leaves via pores on the leaves to form carbohydrates. The vigorous carbohydrates will spread in the plant cells through veins and enable the absorption and growth of plants. The most common type of carbohydrate is glucose, which will combine with nitrogen to form amino acids, proteins, and nucleic acids needed by life. Nitrogen is carried inside plants mainly through the water absorbed by the root systems of plants. Because of photosynthesis, part of the carbohydrates formed inside the plants will be supplied to the plant itself, and the rest will be stored in the leaves and fruits. Humans and animals absorb carbohydrates by consuming the leaves and fruits of plants. Carbohydrates are compounds composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. Sugars, glucose, and fructose are simple carbohydrates, while starch and cellulose are relatively complex carbohydrates. The molecules of simple carbohydrates contain only a few carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms, while the molecules of complex carbohydrates have many carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. All the food we eat, fundamentally speaking, comes from photosynthesis. Without photosynthesis, there would be no humans. Some people argue, I do not rely on plants and can survive only on poultry and domesticated animals, so I don't need the photosynthesis of plants. The problem is without the photosynthesis of plants, there would be no poultry and domesticated animals, as they rely on plants for survival. Of course, we can survive by eating fish, but fish also rely on the photosynthesis of algae and some protists. From a natural point of view, only plants can make food. Animals and humans cannot make food themselves because their bodies do not have the elements for photosynthesis. In addition to providing food for itself, animals, and humans, the photosynthesis of plants has a tremendous function, the absorption of carbon dioxide and the release of oxygen. If plants did not make oxygen, animals and plants would have died out long ago. If plants did not absorb carbon dioxide, the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would exceed the norm, and the greenhouse effect would worsen, and the temperature of the Earth would be too high for humans and animals to survive. Do you think that the photosynthesis of plants begins and happens incidentally?
15. 自然界的对称，神秘而伟大的力量。
15. Symmetry in nature, a mysterious and great power. Look into the mirror. You step forward, and the person in the mirror steps forward. You move backward, and they do the same. You smile, and they smile back. You raise your leg, and so does your reflection. Take the mirror as a tangent, and you and your image in the mirror have formed symmetry. If an object is cut in half vertically from the midpoint and the left and right sides completely overlap each other, then this object is symmetrical. Let's look at the microscopic and macroscopic world, and we will discover that galaxies, the solar system, the Earth, humans, birds, tigers, fish, frogs, roundworms, flies, crickets, leaves, fresh flowers, butterflies, shells, eggs, seeds, cells, and so on are all symmetrical objects. Tornadoes, vortexes, diamonds, crystals, pyrite, pearls, hair, water droplets, the orbits of celestial movements, and helixes are also symmetrical. Among the Arabic numerals of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, the odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 are symmetrical with the even numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. The number of men is symmetrical with the number of women when considered on a larger timescale. Symmetry is omnipresent in the universe. Without symmetry, there would be no universe. Why does the nail that sticks out gets hammered down? Because the nail that sticks out breaks the symmetry. Why does the Leaning Tower of Pisa make people feel uncomfortable? Because it has lost its symmetry. Why are some people called handicapped? Because they lack symmetry. Why was the World Trade Center of America bombed? Because America had become unsymmetrical with other countries. Why was Falun Gong suppressed? Because it was not symmetrical with Chinese culture at the time. Why have many ancient civilizations in human history declined? Because they have lost symmetry. Why are monsters and demons frightening? Because they are asymmetrical. Why do some artists' works look disgusting? Because their works lack symmetry. Why do some buildings appear unsafe? Because they are not symmetrical. Why are some people irascible? Because they are psychologically asymmetrical. Why are corrupt officials punished in the end? Because their mentality is not symmetrical with those of the common people. Why are meteorites frequently seen in the sky? Because these celestial bodies have lost their symmetry. Why did the emperor hang himself? Because his existence was asymmetrical with the situation of the time. Why does tranquility make one feel comfortable, while turbulence makes one feel nervous and upset? Because tranquility is symmetrical, but turbulence is asymmetrical. Symmetry is a kind of harmony, perfection, aesthetics, and order. Why are beauties intoxicating? Why are fresh flowers pleasing to the eye? Why is the music of moonlight on the spring river so soothing? Why do the sculptures of great masters appeal to us? Because they are harmonious and perfect, providing people with the enjoyment of beauty. Try to think. If a girl's left eye is larger than her right eye, her mouth is a bit oblique, she has only 4 fingers on her left hand, 8 toes on her right foot, and her left leg is shorter than her right leg, how would you feel? Humans are naturally inclined towards symmetry. Outstanding artists such as painters, sculptors, musicians, architects, and political leaders are experts in creating and utilizing symmetry. Understanding symmetry enables one to comprehend the mysteries of nature, while mastering symmetry allows one to perform tasks with ease and skill. A mature person is psychologically symmetrical, while a whimsical, eccentric, irascible, testy, and tempestuous person is psychologically asymmetrical. Symmetry is perfect, while asymmetry is defective. Symmetry is enduring, while asymmetry is fleeting. The purpose of discussing symmetry here is to understand the power that has created symmetry in all things in nature, and why people are naturally inclined towards symmetry. Symmetry is a surface phenomenon that conceals a mysterious and powerful force. This force uses symmetry to control overdevelopment and disharmonious kinetic and potential energies. Why do humans have 2 eyes instead of 3? Why is the earth round? Why does a dog's tail grow on its rear body? Why are the wings of butterflies and birds identical? Why do people dislike ugly things? Scientists will certainly seek answers from the characteristics and structures of particles such as atoms, electrons, protons, neutrons, photons, etc., but it will be in vain, because you cannot explain the balanced symmetry of the 2 sexes or why humans do not have tails. Do we feel, deep within our subconscious selves, that a higher wisdom is controlling all beings? If so, who is this higher wisdom but the greatest creator? 16. Golden mean, perfect proportion. 16. 黄金分割，绝美的比例. In 1996, I discovered hundreds of conch species in the marine products market by the seaside of Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania. Those shells were incomparably and unimaginably beautiful. The spiraling structure of the whelk, in particular, dwarfs the best works of any architect. Is the brain of a shell creature more advanced than that of a man? Later, by observing the flower discs of sunflowers, I discovered that the arrays of seeds in the discs take spiral shapes, whether seen leftward or rightward, and that the seeds are not crowded upon each other no matter how many seeds there are in the discs. I figured the ancestors of sunflowers must have had a college education or have obtained doctoral degrees. Otherwise, how could their offspring have ever thought of such a perfect sequence of arrangement? Then, by observing the arrangement of celestial bodies in the solar system, the size of the Earth, and the arrangement of human body and plants, the arrays of branches and leaves of growing plants, the arrays of different petals, the sizes of various insects and the arrangement of their trunks and legs, and the arrangement of 5 sense organs, 4 limbs and torso of the human body, and so on, I discovered that everything in nature has a certain proportion, which is not controlled by an organism itself, but predestined by heaven. Namely, there is a mysterious power that controls the development direction of an individual organism. Take man, for example. Please open your hand. Why are there only 5 fingers on the palm? Why is the middle finger longer than the other four fingers? Why does the thumb not stand in line with the other four fingers? Why is the total length of the three knuckles of the little finger rightly the total length of two knuckles of the ring finger? Why does the thumb have only two condyles while all other four fingers have three? What will happen if the little finger is longer than the middle finger is shorter than the index finger, or if the middle finger has one more knuckle and is 2 centimeters longer than the index finger and ring finger? We can raise thousands of trillions of questions. For example, why has the height of man remained at about 1.73 meters for thousands of years? Why are the eyes of mice so small and the eyes of horses so large? Why cannot grass grow up into towering trees? Why does the size of a man's penis match the depth and width of a woman's vagina? So on and so forth. As long as we examine a question thoroughly, we will have to admit that behind every phenomenon there is a mysterious power or enigmatic law governing everything. There is a harmonious proportion between everything, for example, the Milky Way, the solar system, Earth, the moon, humans, dogs, birds, trees, grass, insects, bacteria, and so on. Additionally, within each entity, there exists an unbreakable and precisely balanced harmony of proportions between their different parts. For example, the size of the human body and its proportions with eyes, head, mouth, arms, legs, 5 internal organs, and blood vessels. Exquisite proportions reflect the wisdom and quality of the greatest creator. That is to say, the various proportions are arranged by the greatest creator. The wisdom of the greatest creator is boundless, just like the circumference ratio pi, which is endless, enigmatic, and forever infinitely informative. With the discovery of pi, humans have realized the extensive and profound wisdom of the greatest creator and the endless mysteries of the material world. People cannot help but feel thrilled and enthralled by the wonder and profundity of Mother Nature, spellbound by the infinite future of life, and fascinated by the wonderful future. Human wisdom is also endless. People have discovered another secret, the imaginary number I, the square root of -1. Does -1 have a square root? The multiplication rule states that 2 positives make a positive, 2 negatives make a positive, and the square of any number is a positive number. Therefore, the square root of -1 does not exist at all. Now that the square root of -1 does not exist, why is the concept of an imaginary number introduced? When science entered the period of quantum mechanics, even Einstein became puzzled because he thought that the universe was orderly and that the future development and changes of anything were predictable as long as the current status was known. However, quantum mechanics put forward the theory that accurate measurement is impossible. The more accurately the position of a small particle is measured, the less accurately the measurement of its speed, and if the speed of a small particle is accurately measured, the measurement of its position will not be accurate. Is it so? What is the expression of the wave function of quantum mechanics? Without imaginary numbers, there would be no complex plane. Without a complex plane, there would be no complex number, and without a complex number, the wave function could not be expressed. When we delve deeper into the microscopic world, we will see that the seemingly illusory imaginary number has actually reflected natural laws. The illusory thing, regarded as impossible by people, actually plays a critical role. Hence, we realize that instead of a question of existence or not, the illusory power of the greatest creator is actually a decisive factor that determines the development and change of everything. Therefore, we realize that in addition to real numbers, there are imaginary numbers, and that there is a non-material world apart from the material world. Moreover, we understand that in addition to the flesh of life, there is a spiritual entity. We come to realize that time is not solely linear, but also has a lateral dimension. In the material world, time appears to be linear, progressing from past to present to future. However, in the realm of the illusory, non-material world, time is lateral. When it comes to humans, The physical body experiences time in a linear manner, with a past, present, and future, and with birth and death. However, the spiritual essence of a person experiences time laterally, transcending the linear progression. The spirit is not confined to the physical body and can, at any given moment, depart from it and enter the lateral dimension of time. The positive and negative numbers of the material world can form a function. Such a function has 4 quadrants, areas. If we include imaginary numbers into the function, we will have a complex function. A complex function has 16 quadrants, areas. Please ask yourself, which quadrant is my life in at present? The main purpose of this section is to explore the proportions in nature. Of all the proportions, people have found a special proportion, the golden mean, another secret of nature after the circumference ratio pi and the imaginary number I. So what is the golden mean phi? Take the human body, for example. If the ratio of height to the length from the sole to the navel equals the ratio of the sole to the navel and from the navel to the top, then the proportion is the golden mean. What is the proportion? The ratio of the golden mean is 1.61803398874989484821. Let's look at another array of numbers: 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, 233, 377, 610. The above figures have a feature, that is, a number is just the sum of the previous 2 numbers. If each number of this array is divided by the number before it, we can derive the following numbers: 1, 2, 1.5, 1.666, 1.6, 1.625, 1.61538, 1.619, 1.6176, 1.61818, 1.61797, 1.61805, 1.61802, 1.61803, 1.61803, 1.61803. If we continue the process, the value tends to be 1.6180339874989484821. 1, 2, 1.5, 1.666, 1.6, 1.625, 1.61538, 1.619, 1.6176, 1.61818, 1.61797, 1.61805, 1.61802, 1.61803, 1.61803, 1.61803. What is the point of this value? It contains unlimited meanings. One of them is beauty. Why are the conchs mentioned earlier in this section incomparably beautiful? It is because they have developed according to the ratio of the golden mean. Why are flowers so pleasing to the eyes? Because they have grown according to the golden mean. Why don't the seeds of plants fight with each other? Because they are arranged according to the golden mean. Why do some people look so pretty? Because every part of their figures reflects the golden mean. Why can musical instruments play melodious tunes? Because the chords of the instruments and the melodies approximate the golden mean. Why do some architectures look so harmonious and comfortable? Because the layout of these buildings has been designed according to the golden mean. Will you think it is beautiful if a person has the neck of a giraffe, the eyes of a mouse, or arms longer than those of an ape? Will it be harmonious if an 80-meter building is built among the 8-meter houses, or if a 5-meter bungalow is built among clusters of high buildings? People growing up in the countryside know that if all villagers live in low bungalows and someone builds a 3-story building on a whim, this person is sure to suffer bad luck. Why was America's World Trade Center blasted off? Seemingly, it was destroyed by terrorists, but actually, the destruction has something to do with its height. Similarly, if you live in a bungalow in an area surrounded by high buildings, you will feel depressed, and you and your children will have little chances of development. We often see judges give scores for contestants on television. The final score for Jinyu Meizi is after crossing out the highest point and the lowest score. Why should the highest and lowest scores be crossed out? It is because they are problematic, discordant, and extreme. Things always reverse themselves after reaching an extreme. Everything must develop within a certain proportion and must be agreeable with its surroundings. If the range of proportions is exceeded, it is no longer beautiful and harmonious. What is harmony? Appropriate proportion is harmony. What is beauty? Appropriate proportional array is beauty. The golden mean is the most harmonious and most beautiful of all proportions. The development of all things is constrained by proportion. For the United States to become a world power, it must assist impoverished countries without exerting excessive force, otherwise, it will inevitably face punishment from natural laws. A poor and backward country must strive to move forward, otherwise, it will inevitably perish. This is also the case with human beings. If the population has increased to such an extent that it has lost harmony with the number of plants and other animals, there will be no way to sustain the continuous growth, just like a rapidly growing branch of a tree. If the branch does not break off, it will pull down or even uproot the tree. Since there is a mysterious power or law of nature that governs the harmony of proportions, the exploding population will certainly be controlled. If humans can exercise control over themselves, all the better. If the population cannot be brought under control, then the power of nature will play its role. For example, wars, earthquakes, floods, fires, plagues, famines, and turidity can all play their part in reducing the population. Wasn't the outbreak of SARS in 2003 an alarm bell sounded by nature for mankind? Proportion is a mysterious power in nature that controls the development and changes of everything in the universe. Who but the greatest creator has formulated this proportion? 17. Brain, epitome of the universe. 17. 大脑宇宙的缩影. All the material wealth created by humans is a realistic reflection of the brain. Humans' thinking, memory, speech, and actions are all attributes of the brain. That a society can be organically united to accomplish a goal is also the result of brain activity. All Nobel Prize winners and great men in history distinguish themselves from others because they have made full use of their brains. Scientists are still far away from uncovering the mystery of the brain, although they have conducted intensive research into the brain in the fields of neurology, anatomy, biology, biochemistry, and electromagnetism, and have had detailed explanations for the structure of the brain and functions of different components. It can be said that humans are still in their infancy in terms of understanding the brain. Our knowledge of the brain is comparable to the part of an iceberg above the water, and what remains unknown can be likened to the gigantic mass underwater. Like the mystery of the universe, the mystery of the human brain is a non-repeating infinite circumference ratio. Although we know that the brain consists of 10 billion brain cells and 10 trillion interacting nerves, that the nerve network of the brain is 10 miles long and can process a billion units of information per second, and that the memory capacity of the brain is 1.2 million times that of a large-scale computer, the brain, which accounts for 3% of body weight, still has unlimited contents. The brain is the epitome of the universe, and the laws of the brain match the laws of the universe. The brain is the epitome of the greatest creator's wisdom, and the brain contains all the wisdom of the greatest creator. The brain is the epitome of time, and the brain owns the information on the changes of the universe over several billions of years. The brain is a processing factory, which can create things out of nothing and can transform the universe. What is imaginable in the brain can all turn to reality. The brain's potential is unlimited, therefore, humans' future is also unlimited, as long as humans do not go to extremes but stay in line with the greatest creator. The brain is a mysterious place. Each neuron of the brain is not in direct contact with each other. The information between neurons is transferred by neurotransmitters, which are chemical in nature. However, within the neurons, the transmission of information is through electrical impulses. When we open up a cranium, we can only see things in biological terms. We cannot help but ask, where is memory stored? Where are thoughts stored? How does man's thought come into being? Where is man's memory stored? How does the brain process a large amount of complicated information? Why can man make spacecraft and land on the moon, while a donkey cannot even make a small cart to carry fodder? Don't people say that all creatures are in the process of evolution? The brain is not only capable of imagery thinking, but also abstract thinking. It can not only learn, but also practice. It can associate closely with not only the material world, but also the non-material world. Most of the scenes in our dreams are not necessarily the real image of the contemporary time-space, but may be scenes from the past, or even future time-space, or even the real image of another time-space. How does the brain work its way out? How do our emotions such as joy, anger, sadness, merriment, panic, trepidation, and yearning occur? How does the brain distinguish and correctly process them? How do we instantly recognize the tastes of sourness, sweetness, bitterness, spiciness, and saltiness? How does the brain react to them? We have senses of pain, itching, tingling, soreness, swelling, acerbity, slipperiness, jumping, hardness, softness, coldness, heat, coolness, and warmth. How does the brain recognize these senses and pass on the information to related departments? The love between a man and a woman is intoxicating. We are in ecstasy when sexual excitement reaches its climax. How does the brain perceive and respond to these sensations? How could the brain come into being if it were not the careful design of the greatest creator? Could such a fantastic and intricate structure arise naturally? Could it have evolved from a single-celled microorganism? 18. 基因,生命的天书. 18 Gene, a sealed book of life. Genes are a type of structure and the cornerstone of life. It is the general term for the special nucleotide sequences with genetic effects in DNA molecules. The resemblance of children to their parents is caused by the reproductive function of genes, which pass on genetic information to the next generation. The different gene structures account for why the white race is white, the black race is black, the yellow race is yellow, a dog is a dog, and a rose is a rose. Genes are a part of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, which is a molecular chain composed of phosphate and sugar. It forms a double helix structure, consisting of two intertwined helical molecular strands connected by horizontal bars called nucleotides. Genes only account for 2% to 4% of the entire DNA mass. Scientific studies have shown that there are about 30,000 human genes, with each gene possessing an average of 14 different versions. The human genome contains about 42,000 gene versions. The birth, growth, decline, and death of life are regulated by genes. Over 8,000 known human diseases are related to genes. The natural healing of wounds in animals and plants is the result of genes' endeavor to retain their own perfect structures. Scientific exploration and research have shown that there are 100 trillion cells in the human body, and in each cell, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes, and in each chromosome, there are 3 billion base pairs. If all the chromosomes in the human body are linked head to tail, the total length will be more than 600 times the distance between the Earth and the Sun. If all the information of a chromosome is written down, it will fill up a 200,000-page phone book. The difference of chromosomes between individuals is only 0.1%. The comparison of the gene sequences of any two individuals reveals that 99.9% of the gene sequences are the same. The functions of the majority, 97%, of chromosomes within human genomes remain a mystery. Genes, the Book of Life, have been the focus of the Human Genome Project, which mobilized top scientific talents and cutting-edge technologies from the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, Germany, France, and China to decode them. After more than a decade of hard work, we finally see the basic framework of the mansion of life, the gene. However, it seems that we have only understood. Do we not consider that the gene is the fruit of the wisdom of the greatest creator? Can such an intricate structure come into being without the greatest creator? Some people may stick to their theory of natural occurrence, but then I ask you, what does natural occurrence even mean? 19. The wonder of the great variety of life. 19千姿百态的生命奇观. Exhibiting its fantastic luster, life of myriad forms is presented everywhere, from the tropic zone, temperate zones, frigid zones to the north and south poles, from plains and canyons to precipitous cliffs, from the underground, the Earth's surface, to the sky, from small creeks and ponds to rivers, lakes, and oceans. With their insignificant sizes but astronomical numbers, bacteria, actinomycete, epiphyte, microzyme, lactobacillus, viruses, and other microorganisms present a dazzling world of life under the microscope. A million species of insects are exhibiting a gorgeous and bizarre world of life. More than 9,000 species of birds are flying in the sky. They are agile and flexible, bearing valiant and varying beautiful shapes that have inspired us to yearn for freedom and the future, causing our thoughts to soar to the distant horizon. Countless fishes, shrimps, shell creatures, and other marine animals have constituted a fantastic and unimaginable underwater kingdom of life. We marvel at and are amazed and puzzled by hundreds of thousands of large, terrestrial animal species with widely differing means. Rushing or leaping, running or climbing, they exhibit their strong and vigorous bearing and their respective skills for survival. With the change of seasons, more than 100,000 species of flowers vie with beautiful girls in their riotous profusion of colors, enchanting and attractive. They are a sight to behold, leaving one reluctant to part ways and longing to return. From the creepy lichens to the tall and straight redwoods, from the float grass swaying in the wind to the meandering kudzu vines, from medlar to loquat, from mulberry and elm to coconut, the magical forms of the vegetable kingdom are so wonderful that they excel the work of nature. We cannot help asking, How do the riotous profusion of wonders of life come into being? Without tissues, organs, brains, and hearts, how can those single-celled monads capture and digest food, excrete feces, move freely, build houses, and have sex? Who has equipped insects with armors? Who has armed the birds with wings? Who has covered the beautiful clothes for flowers? Who has equipped man with the heart? Who else but the greatest creator? 20. The protection mechanism of life, conditioned reflex. 20. 生命的保护机制，条件反射. What is a conditioned reflex? It was a rainy autumn day in 1980. I was looking out of a closed window of a classroom in the Geological Technical School of Zhangjiago when suddenly a classmate named Cheng Hongfu from Sichuan mischievously spat at me from outside the window. Subconsciously, I stepped backward, closing both eyes instantly. This chain of reactions triggered the burst of laughter of Cheng Hongfu, who said jestingly, "Monitor, what a coward you are! The window is closed. How can I spit on your face?" I said, "I did not realize that the window was closed. Do it one more time, and I will not react." I moved closer to the window, thinking that since the window was closed and he could not reach me, I would remain calm even if he spat blood at me. "Are you ready?" Before he had finished speaking, he spat at me again. "Ha ha, monitor. You closed your eyes again." My eyes indeed closed at that moment. Later, I tried a few more times, but my eyes would not listen to my command. Every time he spat, I involuntarily winked my eyes. Later, in the classes of physiology and psychology, I came to know that this involuntary physiological reaction is called a conditioned reflex. Pavlov even conducted an experiment on dogs. The feeding of dogs was always accompanied by the ringing of bells. After some time, the dogs' mouths watered when they heard the bells, even before the food was brought in front of them. Why did this happen? It is because the ringing of bells has become a signal for food for dogs and a conditioned stimulus. The dog's prompt physiological and psychological reaction to this stimulus is called a conditioned reflex. In the chapter Drinking Wine and Rating the Heroes of the novel Romance of Three Kingdoms, Cao Cao related a story to Liu Bei. "The green plums on the branch I saw just now in the garden remind me of last year's fight against Zhang Xiu. We were running short of water through the long march then. The army could not put up with the thirst. Suddenly an idea came to me. 'There is a plum grove ahead,' I cried and pointed with my riding whip. Having heard this and thinking of the sour green fruits, their mouths watered, and they did not feel thirsty anymore." Because of the conditioned reflex, the troops of Cao Cao secreted saliva when hearing plums. There are endless examples of conditioned reflex. Poke a crawling caterpillar with your hand or a stick, and it will immediately curl up into a circle. The abnormal behaviors of animals prior to an earthquake, mimosas curling of leaves when touched, the palpitation of the heart induced by a sudden sound on a quiet night, the contraction of muscles at the sight of a snake, the sneezes caused by the entrance of specks, the erection of the penis and the secretion of lubricating mucus in the vagina when watching pornographic videos, the tightening of muscles and the flush of the face at the thought of one's enemy, the trembling of the mouth and the shivering of the body in times of fear and tension, the spontaneous resistance when encountering sudden attack, inexplicable twitching of the eyelids, flush of ears, palpitation, and twittering of muscles. All these are results of a conditioned reflex. Why are there conditioned reflexes in animals and plants? Whether we explain it from a psychological or physiological perspective, apart from the conditioned reflex acquired as second nature, the innate instinctive conditioned reflex cannot be created by the plants and animals themselves. Conditioned reflex primarily serves as a mechanism for life's instinct self-protection and is an instant response at one's subconscious level. Who designed this? Who but the greatest creator? 21. 两性愉悦，不仅仅是为了传宗接代。21. The pleasure of sex is not only for carrying on the family line. The core point of the pleasure in sex is the orgasm during sexual intercourse. None of the first love, adoration, yearning, dating, caressing, and other emotional enjoyments can compare to the orgasm in sex. Then, what is the orgasm in sexual intercourse? To help us understand the feeling of orgasm between males and females, I have selected some sections from Kinsey Reports, Hattie Report on Sex, and especially Sex Codes, China Reports. I feel like I'm in heaven. I have a blurry sense of giddiness, the thrilling and exciting warmth, fullness, humidness, and force. A sense of urgency, an irresistible sense of pulling. I feel extremely excited and short of breath. Meanwhile, I feel my head lifting up as if in a dream. The sound is vague and distant. Time seems still. Joy, happiness, exhilaration, and excitement. I am blissfully ecstatic. I feel terrific, as if I am at my best. It feels like an awakening and the beginning of life. The feeling is incomparably wonderful. It is an ecstasy almost unbearable to human power. Charming, surging blood, carefree, ecstasy, orgasm, unparalleled wonder, intoxicating, full of power, incredible. In some aspects, arousal of sexuality offers me the opportunity to transcend myself and wake up from the dense fog of daily life and existence. I feel as if I have left my flesh and my spirit, caring for nothing that normally seems extremely important to me. Wonderful feeling of caresses. I wish this could go on forever. The stillness of life is like an eternal moment, intertwined strongly through indulging and savoring the sweet pleasure of the flesh. A fantastic sensation. I myself am in another dimension which drifts and melts from the supporting point of my life. A raging flame, violent and engulfing everything. Extremely fantastic. A refreshing and irresistible orgasm is increasing to such an extent that an intense charge surges around the clitoris, just like a space-exploring rocket shooting up explosively. Then the charge radiates in the entire region of my pubes. At this moment, all other things have vanished from my consciousness. It seems that the inside of me is filled with enormous power. The wetness, the heat, and the intensity make me feel incomparably comfortable. During the whole process, all the raging, wonderful feelings are radiating on the internal side of my legs. It seems that all things around me have ceased their existence. I am completely immersed in this wonderful feeling. By far, I have not experienced a more wonderful feeling than this. This feeling is a complete immersion that has nothing to do with will and thought. It has completely conquered me, occupying my body. As for the overall effect of its destructiveness, the best word to describe this physiological feeling is madly carefree. The only feeling I can relate to is a certain form of overall stiffness and tightness and the indistinguishable internal explosion at the sexual organs. My body gradually tightens up. I feel as if I have reached the precipitous peak of perfect happiness. Then I approach the plateau of ecstasy. I utter a sharp scream, glide past the crest plane of bliss. Then I experience 5 or 6 fits of violent twitches and convulsions, which are acute, vehement, and agitating in the beginning and become duller, slower, and milder. This is the orgasm in sexual pleasure. From the above statement, we can see that the physiological and psychological sensations during orgasm are incomparably wonderful pleasures and the ultimate beauty. No wonder Bangu said in the Book of Han, Arts and Literature, sexual intercourse is the ultimate expression of emotion and nature, the boundary of Tao. Jared Diamond, a physiology professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, said, "Human sex is weird. It is magical, incredible, and beyond nature." The pleasure between two sexes is so magical, so soul-stirring, so desirable. No wonder Freud concluded that the driving force of sex is the greatest force that propels social development. Then, who created such a wonderful feeling for humankind? Is sexual orgasm a result of natural evolution? Is sexual pleasure solely for the purpose of reproducing? R. Stephen Howard, a graduate student at Indiana State University, said, "In terms of energy required, asexual reproduction is a more economical way to transmit genes to one's progeny." His research results showed that asexual reproduction is the most economical way and the most effective way to transmit the genetic traits of a living organism to its offspring. But how did sexual reproduction come into being? Is sexual pleasure only for bearing children? The answer is no. Prostitutes engage in prostitution not to bear children for pleasure-seeking men, and those men do not seek out prostitutes to have children with them. Human intelligence can create a master machine that produces products continuously. So, why couldn't the greatest creator make a matrix that continually produces offspring? The pleasure of sex is purely for the enjoyment of life, and this is the universal love of the greatest creator. As for the propagation of offspring, it is only a byproduct of the pleasure of sex. Moreover, asexual reproduction will pass on diseases carried by genes to future generations. Through copulation, diseases carried by genes can be remitted or even eliminated. The benefits of crossbreeding are evident. Therefore, a species may go extinct without a sex life. Thus, the pleasure of sex is an arrangement of the greatest creator. Sex life conforms to the decree of the greatest creator. Suppressing, inhibiting, or destroying sex life is against human nature. We should have sex life and enjoy it too. Sex life should accompany us to the other shore of life. It is unreasonable to suppress, inhibit, or destroy sex life because it goes against human nature. Why should we refrain from what the greatest creator has created? There is no such thing as debauchery and dissipation in sex life. The more, the better. There is nothing wrong with the Muzi-May phenomenon. If Lin Dayu in A Dream of Red Mansion had experienced an orgasm, she would not have had such a miserable ending. Does this mean that Life Genuine is against Christianity and Buddhism? The seventh precept of the Ten Commandments is, "You shall not commit adultery." In Matthew 5 verses 28 to 29, Jesus said, "But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into Gehenna." Gehenna, a garbage dump outside of Jerusalem. The first precept of upholding the right dharma in Volume 6 of the Buddhist Shurangama Sutra is to abstain from sexual misconduct. If the minds of all sentient beings in the 6 realms of the world are not tainted by sexual desire, they will not be subject to birth and death. If you cultivate samadhi without removing the desire, you cannot transcend worldly sufferings. Even if you have great wisdom and meditation, if you do not refrain from sexual misconduct, you will fall into the demonic path. There are high-ranking demon kings, middle-ranking demon followers, and low-ranking demon women. These demons also have their own followers, and each one claims to have achieved the heavenly path. In the Dharma ending age after my nirvana, these demonic followers will be prevalent in the world, widely promoting greed and sexual misconduct as virtuous conduct, causing sentient beings to fall into the pit of attachment and lose the path to enlightenment. Jesus is God, and Sakyamuni is Buddha. Their profound wisdom is beyond us mortals, and their teachings are invaluable treasures to our life. Jesus instructs us in divinity. Following the supreme road of life guided by Jesus, we can enter the kingdom of the greatest creator. Sakyamuni enlightens us from the perspective of Buddhism. If we want to attain Buddhahood, we must break with lewdness, not only physiologically but also psychologically. Just like the teachings of Jesus, you have already committed adultery even if you only have harbored the lustful desire. Christianity is the religion of God, and Buddhism is the religion of Buddha. The two religions have made indelible contributions to mankind. Through them, we have come to know the road to supreme life space. It is the primary task of Life Genuine to make Jesus and Sakyamuni an integrated part of our life. If the path of human development is comparable to a three-story building, then Christianity will be on the top level, Buddhism at the middle, and Life Genuine will be at the bottom. From the perspective of the level of life, Buddhism is a direct ship that leads people to the Western Pure Land, the Elysium world in the 36-dimensional spaces, by crossing over human nature. To board this ship, one must cut off lust. Where exactly Christianity wants to guide people in terms of the level of life space, I cannot fully comprehend with my current knowledge. Based on the miracles and teachings of Jesus, it seems that the goal is to make everyone an angel and enter the heaven world, God's paradise. In 12:18-25 of the Gospel of Mark, Jesus said, "For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven." What is an angel? An angel is the super-celestial being and Buddha with divinity. Buddha is under the control of the power of Buddha, while a super-celestial being is the free, elegant, and magically powerful spiritual entity of high energy, second only to God. Christianity guides people to develop in the direction of super-celestial being, which conforms to Jesus' teachings. Only in this way can they have a definite development direction for life space. However, from the activities and pursuits of Christians, it seems that they are still clinging to worldly affairs, to the relations of parents, children, couples, and friends and relatives, and to private properties, which is unreasonable. In Luke 14 verse 26, Jesus said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Because if you don't hate them, you cannot become an angel." For angels, there is nothing like family love. We can see from the teachings of Jesus and Sakyamuni that the ultimate wisdoms are communicable. They have the same purpose. Buddhists are capable of determinately cutting off all their attachments to worldly affairs, including the relations of father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, belongings, status, reputation, and their own souls. They will commit themselves to self-improvement and self-cultivation wholeheartedly. They are the real Christians. However, the so-called Christians may inspire suspicion of crying up wine but selling vinegar. The direction of development for us, mankind, is the direction given by Jesus and Sakyamuni. The problem is that there is a vast ocean between humans and angels, super-celestial beings and Buddhas, and how can we navigate our lifeboat through the turbulent and surging vast ocean to reach the ideal shore? If we can abandon worldly pursuits and devote ourselves to cultivation like the monks, nuns, priests, and sisters in the temple, it would be the best way. Although it may be difficult to ascend to heaven in one step, it is worthwhile. The problem is, can we do it? Let's drop all other obstacles. How many of us can surmount the huge mountain of the pleasure of sex? I have another question. Why should we surmount this huge mountain now that the greatest creator has equipped us with the pleasure of sex to enjoy? Isn't the feeling of orgasm, entering paradise, feeling celestial, release and proliferation of love, the standstill of time and space, the feeling of being blended into the universe, and the expectation to give up all worldly desire and stay forever at that time point, the highest realm of life we pursue? Our ultimate goal is to become angels, super-celestial beings, and Buddhas. It would be too difficult for ordinary people to jump from the starting point to the end point, unless they are born with the wisdom of an angel, like my granny, who was a vegetarian by birth, not due to personal preference, but due to disgust at the smell of fish and meat. Entering graduate school directly from primary school is a process of transcending comparable to the thorough remolding of oneself and reaching the peak of perfection. It is just too difficult. Are there any smoother paths to the final success of becoming a super-celestial being or Buddha? Yes, there are. Let's first arrive at the thousand-year world because the enjoyment of the pleasure of sex will only affect our success of becoming a super celestial being or Buddha and will not prevent us from approaching the thousand-year world. Please refer to the thousand-year world of the 36-dimensional spaces. Although it is still hundreds of thousands of miles away from the kingdom of the super celestial being and Buddhas, the thousand-year world is, after all, a world with sublimated human nature. We can first arrive at the thousand-year world before reaching the 10,000-year world and finally make it to the world of super celestial beings and Buddhas, the Elysium world. This is comparable to a primary school pupil who pursues their education in the order of primary school, middle school, university, and finally the graduate school. Let's return to our topic. The pleasure of sex is the arrangement of the greatest creator and the favor he has granted us. The greatest creator will not punish us as long as we are grateful to him and remember his grace when enjoying the pleasure of sex. I have seen the greatest creator through the pleasure of sex. Have you? 22. 上帝的杰作，自然之美。22. The masterpiece of the greatest creator, the beauty of nature. While learning about Introduction to Literature, our teacher told us, we are surrounded by beauty. The reason we have failed to discover beauty is that we lack the eyes to perceive it. In 1986, I went to the Mandarin Duck Reservoir in Jiantao County with my classmates from Jiuquan Education College. We got off the bus on the road from Jiuquan City to Jiantao County. Guess what my first impression was? I felt the beauty of relaxation and happiness for becoming a part of Mother Nature because, as soon as we got off the bus, we saw the vast expanse of the endless Gobi Desert. It seemed that we city dwellers had entered another world of wildness, wonder, remoteness, and vastness. All of us cried out with one voice, "Wow, beautiful." How can we say that the Gobi Desert is not beautiful? When I climbed the Great Wall at Badaling during my study at Beijing Foreign Trade University, I saw the meandering Great Wall fly like a gigantic dragon on the top of the undulating mountains. I felt a beauty of valiance, unrestrained freedom, and flying. During my study at Zhangjiago Geology Technical School, I used to go climbing with my classmates. Standing on the mountaintop and overlooking the wilderness with curling smoke beyond the Great Wall, I felt a beauty of serenity, leisureliness, composure, and ease induced by the picturesque natural scenery. While studying in Lanzhou Education College, I would sit by the Yellow River whenever I had the opportunity. Since I grew up by the Yellow River, I have a special love for it. Watching the surging and rolling river flow in its meandering course, I felt that my thinking had been carried to a remote place, and I was filled with the aesthetic feeling of surging emotions and endless yearnings. In the small islands of Luanda, the capital of Angola, in the Bella port of Mozambique, on the beach of Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania, in the end of the earth of China's Hainan Island, in the Cape of Good Hope of South Africa's Cape Town. Everywhere the azure sky and sea elicits in me an aesthetic sense of mystery, fantasy, eternity, and infinity. There is the world-famous Victoria Waterfall on the Zambezi River between Zambia and Zimbabwe. I used to drive a 6-ton truck of the Chinese Jiefeng brand to fetch water from there. Each time I approached it, I was overwhelmed by its tumbling heroism. Its vigorous momentum, mountain-shaking power, thunderous rumbling, dragons soaring, and the numerous rainbows among the waterfall created a dreamlike aesthetic feeling of dauntlessness and unrestraint. Harare is a garden-esque city, and Zimbabwe is a green country. Here, birds sing and flowers bloom all year round. Everywhere, you can see lush and green foliage. For years, I wandered among the green mountains and rivers. Under the blue sky and white clouds, the trees, flowers, and grass are extremely beautiful. I have not been to a prairie, but a dance I learned in middle school has always been lingering in my mind. The dance sings praise of the prairie of Hulunbuir in Inner Mongolia, the galloping courser, the herds of sheep, the drifting white clouds in the blue sky, and clusters of small flowers dotting the endless stretch of green land. In my imagination, the prairie is refreshing and intoxicating, and I long for it. The Gobi Desert, mountains, fields, rivers, oceans, creeks, and waterfalls, the blue sky and white clouds, flowers, grass, and trees, all are beautiful. The prairie, even in imagination, is also very beautiful. The starlight stretching across the sky, the morning and evening glows, the hovering eagles, the dancing butterflies, the grapes on the vines, the mouth-watering melons and fruits, the exquisite and translucent gemstones, the sparkling and shining dewdrops, the croaking of frogs, the chirping of insects, the singing of birds, the neighing of horses, and even the mirage. Nature displays strange and stunning beauty everywhere. Nature is beautiful, and man is even more beautiful. I have not seen the four ancient beauties in China, nor have I studied any of them carefully. However, I have appreciated numerous Western beauties from the internet, especially nude ones. I have been deeply influenced by Buddhism, Christianity, and Confucianism, but the power of beauty is so great that it can cause the complete collapse of my moral defense line. The temptation of beauty is so strong that it can intoxicate and thrill people. Sometimes I imagine them to be the painted skins, hua pai, in strange stories from a Chinese studio, which will suck my marrow and blood, pull out my tendons, and skin me alive. I also know that a beauty of 18 is soft and tender. Her charm is as sharp as a sword that can cut through an ordinary man. Although he may look the same, unknowingly his marrow is sucked clean and dry. However, my natural inclination for beauty is so strong that I wish to be consumed by it. Should we turn a deaf ear and a blind eye to beauty? If beauty can cause our downfall, so can the beauty of nature. Aren't they the same? The earnest and tireless teachings of Jesus and Sakyamuni keep ringing in my ears. On the other hand, beauty bewitches me with its irresistible force. I have been plunged into deep misery and desperation. Why is this? I ponder, I repent, I hate myself, and I pity myself. What should I do? I cannot help but look for the greatest creator, pleading for a definitive answer. Who has bestowed beauty upon everything? If a person has no other purpose than mere survival, they will need nothing more than a kennel and a basin of pig feed. Why should everything be given a beautiful appearance? Finally, I have found the answer. The beauty of everything has been created by the greatest creator, who intended for us to enjoy the beauty of life. Now that the revered greatest creator of the universe has offered us beauty, why should we act against the will of the greatest creator and view beauty as a dreadful disaster? Is Jesus wrong? Is Buddha Sakyamuni wrong? No, not at all. Honey is sweet, but if we cannot extricate ourselves from it, we may put our lives and wonderful future at stake, which is quite unworthy. We must heed the painstaking advice of God and Buddha. However, now that all beauty has been created by the greatest creator, we are entitled to enjoy it. All beauty should be shared and not privatized. Everyone is greedy and exclusive by nature. When one cannot possess certain beauty, they will try every means to decry it and prevent others from enjoying it. I praise all of you beautiful men and women, and through you, I praise the greatest creator. Internet beauties, the road to paradise and Elysium world has been closed to you. Let me lead you to the 1,000-year world. You have shown your beauty to the world and the public. You are not monsters, nor are you sprites. But remember, your beauty is given by the greatest creator. You should always remember the favor of the greatest creator and feel indebted to and love him. However, it will be a different story if you use your beauty for evil. Beauty is the masterpiece of the greatest creator, and the existence of beauty is the best evidence of the existence of the greatest creator. 23. 明亮的眼睛，通向美的窗户。23. The bright eyes, windows to beauty. Of the six senses, vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and spiritual sense, felt by the six sense organs, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, vision accounts for more than 80% of our understanding of the material world. Although more than 80% of the knowledge of the non-material world comes from spiritual sense, vision is the foundation for spiritual sense. Thus, eyes are called the windows of the soul. Vision relies mainly on eyes. Although purely a material physiological structure, eyes can project the forms and movements of the boundless universe onto our brains, which enables us to survive effectively in the complicated nature. Without eyes, a person cannot live effectively, and without eyes, humankind cannot survive effectively. So, how did eyes come about? Is it possible that the miraculous and intricate eyes have evolved from a single-celled organism and developed into the fully functional and perceptive eyes of humankind? Human eyes have two functions. One is the function of vision, and the other is the function of aesthetics. The formation of vision involves an entire system of highly efficient image analysis structures. Strictly speaking, the objects we see are not the same objects because a period of time has passed in the process from the perception of an object to the imaging of the object on the retina to the conceptualization of the object after being reflected to the brain by the nervous system. Although it lasts only several 10,000ths of a microsecond, theoretically, the image in the brain is already not the image of the real object. For example, a flower we see may have withered after some time, but the flower in the brain is still the one originally reflected. For another example, when a relative of ours has passed away and is no longer alive, our brains still retain the lovely voice and happy countenance of the deceased. How does vision happen? Vision is a reaction to the stimulation of light energy of the eyes. An object will reflect the light from the sun or other light source. Via pupils and lens, the reflected light will fall on the retina for imaging to take place. Then, stimulated by light energy, the nerve cells on the retina will convert the light signal into a bioelectrical signal, which will deliver the vision information to the nerve center via optic nerves and finally to the brain. The brain's mechanism for analysis, judgment, and identification will form the concepts of the object's size, shape, and color and then pass on these concepts to the related parts of the body, ordering them to maintain high vigilance and be ready to respond to emergencies. For the smooth running of such a complicated program, a man of supreme wisdom is needed to conduct the perfect design of the eyes, just like the design of cameras by scientists. We can know that the eyes are designed by the greatest creator through the following passages. What is visible to the eyes is only the visible light with wavelengths ranging between 400 and 760 nanometers. Beyond this visual range, the world is completely different. The blue sky is no longer blue. Our eyes would be overwhelmed by the variegated and weirdly colorful scenes created by cosmic rays such as infrared, ultraviolet, gamma rays, beta rays, X-rays, electromagnetic waves, and particle flux. In less than 10 minutes, our nervous system would become chaotic and we would go insane. Moreover, we might occasionally perceive spirits, immortals, goblins, devils, monsters, paradise and hell, or even the thought waves in other people's minds. Then we would not be able to behave like rational beings and enjoy the beauty of life in a muddle-headed and unrestrained manner. Enable the eyes to distinguish between different colors. Within the cone-shaped photosensitive cells of the human eye's retina, there are 3 different photopigments that can absorb blue light with a wavelength of 445 nanometers, green light with a wavelength of 535 nanometers, and red light with a wavelength of 570 nanometers. The combination of these three lights in varying proportions has created a vast array of colors. Our eyes have the ability to distinguish these subtle color differences. If not, we would all be colorblind, and how could we fully enjoy the infinite beauty of nature? Give the eyes a broad field of vision. Our eyeballs are only 24 millimeters from front to back, 23 millimeters from top to bottom, and 23.5 millimeters horizontally. The pupil of the eye is only 2.5 to 4 millimeters in diameter, but with the ability to scan widely, we can see views within a range of dozens of kilometers. If our eyes do not have this function, and we could only see an area the size of our eyes, our field of vision would be extremely limited, like looking through a bamboo tube at something a few meters away. Our field of vision would be very narrow, and we wouldn't be able to see a wolf approaching or a snake crawling up to our feet. This would be very troublesome, wouldn't it? Provide the eyes with stereoscopic vision. People often say, we can see clearly at a glance, but can one see clearly with only one eye? Try closing one eye and see if you can thread a needle or pour strong sulfuric acid accurately into a small test tube in a chemistry lab. Therefore, having two eyes is important. Enable the eyes to blink. The eyes blink every 2 to 8 seconds. Why do we blink? If our eyes remain open all the time, they will become dry, astringent, and may attract dust and bacteria. If this continues for an extended period, we may lose our eyesight. By blinking, tears are evenly distributed in the eyes to moisten the cornea and conjunctiva, preventing dryness and astringency, maintaining the luster of the cornea, and cleaning the conjunctival sac of dust and bacteria. See how considerate the greatest creator is. Provide the eyes with a mechanism for self-protection. The eye is a complex, sensitive, and delicate organ that cannot be protected by relying on human self-awareness. Therefore, the greatest creator has designed eyebrows, eyelashes, eyelids, and tears for protection. Eyebrows, growing on the protruding supraorbital ridges, ward off dust and sweat from above like an umbrella, preventing them from entering the eyes. Eyelashes resemble bamboo curtains or two platoons of embattled sentinels, always ready to keep away and block the unannounced invasion of enemies like dust and microorganisms. Eyelids act as loyal soldiers guarding the frontier line of the eyes. Whenever foreign matter or strong light attacks, the eyelids close up immediately and protect the eyes within them from harm. This prevents foreign matter from damaging the eyeballs and strong light from hurting the optic nerves. In case foreign matter or bacteria invades the eyes, tears from the lacrimal gland flush away the foreign matter. Lysozyme and immunoglobulin in tears inhibit bacterial growth and kill bacteria by decomposing the sucrose mortierolate in the cell wall. This protection mechanism is perfect. Is it a result of evolution? Our eyes have possessed these functions since humans appeared on Earth. They have not evolved or regressed, nor have they gone through gradual perfection and evolution. In addition to their visual function, eyes also serve an aesthetic purpose. Expressions such as bright eyes, speaking eyes, amorous eyes, flirting eyes, and so on provide us with aesthetic enjoyment. I have brainstormed hundreds of schemes to adjust the size and position of the eyes to find a better design. For example, placing the eyes at the top of the head, at the back of the head, or on the buttocks, palms, or beneath the mouth. I also considered exchanging the positions of the eyes and ears or replacing human eyes with those of horses, rats, or frogs. However, only the current size and position of the eyes are just right, and any changes will lead to ugliness. Try it and see. Through our eyes, we can see the greatest creator and witness the exquisite and profound wisdom of the greatest creator. Beauty is the masterpiece of the greatest creator, and the existence of beauty is the best evidence of the existence of the greatest creator. 24奇妙的生物遥感、传感和感应。24. The marvelous biological remote sensing, telesthesia, and telepathy. Let's first look at the following cases. Case 1. Huiyin reported in 4 flowers and 4 dragons. The story of two quadruplets. If one of the quadruplets catches a cold, the other three will surely have a fever. Three brothers yawned in step with each other, with three little mouths opening simultaneously. They uttered, "Ah," sonorously, as if proclaiming their manliness. Case 2. There is a report called The Unexpected Reunion of Kindred, the details of which I cannot remember very well. It relates the reunion of a mother and daughter after a separation of more than 4 decades. Under a strange combination of circumstances, the daughter was adopted by other people. So she took the foster mother for her birth mother, and indeed, she did not know that she had a natural mother who was now old and lived alone, knowing nothing about her only child, who had been separated from her since very young. A curious coincidence brought the daughter into an out-of-the-way alley, where she coincidentally met with an old lady. Because she had accidentally helped the old lady, she was invited by the old lady into her humble hut, where she accidentally saw a picture on the wall of the old lady when she was young. She was astonished because her foster mother had given her a photo, which had been placed at the bottom of a box for decades. The photo on the wall was the same as the one she had placed at the bottom of a box. After talking with the old lady, she came to know that the old lady in front of her was none other than her own mother. The mother and the daughter felt both misery and happiness. Thanks to the mercy of heaven, the old mother had eventually found her daughter that she missed every day. Case 3. Dead body returns home reported that when the famous American actor Charles Cleveland died in 1899, he was buried in Galveston, Texas. The next year, a hurricane flooded the cemetery. The family of the deceased searched everywhere, but with no result. However, 28 years later, in September 1927, this magical coffin mysteriously reappeared. It drifted for 3,000 kilometers and arrived at the homeland of Cleveland, Prince Edward Island. Case 4. According to the omens of mice house moving, after World War II, Mr. and After a period of peace, those mice left the house for another time. Mrs. Macy has a hunch that something unexpected might happen again. True enough, this young industrialist died in a plane crash. It is said that the house was built by a famous lawyer who suffered from lunacy shortly after the building was completed and eventually killed himself by jumping into the Hudson River. Case 5. According to the report of the miraculous biological telesthesia, as early as the last century, Professor Gregory of Edinburgh University had introduced an experiment of Barua. In the experiment, Barua divided the 50 snails into 25 pairs. Each pair was separated from the other pairs. After some time, the same letter was written on the shells of each pair of snails, and one of the pair was brought to America, the other still remained in Paris. Later, at a given time, the snail staying in Paris was stimulated with electric current. At the same time, the one brought to America also exhibited the same electric stimulation reactions. Reactions. Alright, Let's just take the above examples to explore what remote sensing, and perception are all about. Remote sensing. First, I'd like to make it clear that the remote sensing I am talking about is purely biological remote sensing, which is different from the electromagnetic wave remote sensing, sonar remote sensing, and geophysical field remote sensing applied in aviation, spaceflight, navigation, meteorology, mapping, global positioning, resources survey, environmental protection, disaster prevention, hydrology, and geology, and archaeology. In the mythological novel Fengshen Bang, there are two extraordinary individuals named Qianli Yin, Thousand-Mile Eye, and Shunfeng Air, Wind-Piercing Ear. Their abilities allow them to perceive everything happening in Jiangxia's military camp from a distant location. The mice's behavior in Case 4 is an example of animal remote sensing. The special ability of remote clairvoyance, frequently mentioned in the science of Qigong, is also a kind of remote sensing. Then, what is remote sensing? Remote sensing is a biological ability to perceive the condition of a distant person, object, or scenery by receiving the thought waves or electromagnetic waves emitted by them through directional thinking. Remote sensing is not a mysterious phenomenon, but rather a resonant frequency. Just like a television channel that receives electromagnetic signals of live broadcasting transmitted by a TV station and informs us of the happenings in a different place, or like a radio that picks up the frequency of a certain radio station and broadcasts the clear voice of the announcer. Remote sensing is a natural phenomenon in the universe, but its occurrence is very unusual. Strictly speaking, the scenes described in science fiction are not sheer fabrications, but a reality that has transcended time and space. Some people can accurately predict the future because they have actually mastered the technology of remote sensing. For example, the French Dr. Nostradamus, the eccentric Dorothy, Sakyamuni, and so on. The death of Russian Tsar Ivan at the end of the 16th century had been accurately predicted by 60 Russian prophets 12 days prior to his death. It is said that some people had given up the journey on Titanic for remote sensing its forthcoming disaster. There are a lot of prophecies in the Bible, the Quran, and the Sutra. Actually, these prophecies are a kind of remote sensing. My description of the 36-dimensional space is also the result of remote sensing. Explanations regarding the origin of the universe, the origin of humanity, and the origin of life are merely perceptions beyond time and space based on spiritual intuition. They do not rely on my meager knowledge or logical reasoning. From a scientific perspective, my arguments and evidence may be insufficient, but I believe that humanity will eventually know that what I am saying is correct. The number of people with the ability of remote sensing cannot be too many, just like there can be only several queen bees in a swarm of bees. The world will fall into chaos if everyone is capable of remote sensing. So I shall drop the topic here. If you are capable of remote sensing, it is your good luck. Sensation. Sensation is a physiological phenomenon, and it refers to a kind of physiological transmission of perception that goes unnoticed. The most unique example is the arrival of milk after childbirth. Taking humans as an example, regardless of how full a woman's breasts are, and despite engaging in sexual activities countless times, even after being pregnant for 10 months, milk will not appear until the child is born. Only the physiological response triggered by the baby's need for milk after birth leads to the abundant production of milk. This is similar to the tear glands secreting tears. Tears are only produced when a foreign object enters the eye or when there is a significant emotional fluctuation. Cases 1, 2, and 5 are examples of biological sensation. Remote sensing can be acquired through conscious cultivation, while sensation is an unconscious physiological behavior, a physiological mechanism, and a natural program designed by the greatest creator. In this regard, we don't need to pay excessive attention. Telepathy. Telepathy is a universal phenomenon in the universe. Everything has telepathy. Strictly speaking, all activities of life forms are the result of telepathy. More accurately, All the phenomena we see are the result of telepathy. The macrocosmic universe is the result of telepathy, and the microcosmic universe is also the result of telepathy. Both organic and inorganic substances are capable of telepathy. Humans, animals, plants, and insects have telepathy. Mountains, rocks, rivers, and weather are all capable of telepathy. The effective evidence for the telepathy of microscopic matter can be found in the fact that the famous Buddhist master Jinkong cited on many occasions the Japanese scientist's research on the crystal of water molecules when expounding on Mahayana's Sutra of Infinite Life. He said that when we say thanks and love to water, the arrangement of water molecules will be a very beautiful crystal, and that when we are hostile and indifferent to it, the arrangement of water molecules will be a chaotic assemblage. Hence, Master Jinkong told us that since the human body is 70% water, as long as we show more care for water in our body, then the water molecules in our body will act effectively, and we will increase our health. We may be free from illness all our life. He went further to enlighten us that since 70% of the earth is covered by water, as long as we don't pollute the rivers, lakes, and oceans, the earth will not be inflicted with floods, inundations, droughts, and hailstones. Like the gravitation between everything, the telepathy between everything exists and occurs everywhere and at any time. The most obvious examples are electromagnetic induction, sound wave induction, photoelectric induction, and so on. Now there are automatic doors in cities around the globe. The door closes when a person leaves and opens when a person approaches. Some street lamps will be automatically turned on when it becomes dark and will be automatically turned off when dawn breaks. Some anti-theft devices will automatically set off alarms when a person enters a security zone. Telepathy between life forms happens at every moment. In case 1, the quadruplets will all have a fever as long as one of them catches a cold. When one yawns, the others will open their mouths simultaneously. The same phenomenon occurs with twins and multi-births. Different degrees of telepathy occur at any moment between mother and daughter, father and son, lovers and enemies. The abnormal behaviors of animals before earthquakes, the pain in joints suffered by arthritis patients before heavy rain, the frantic movements of insects before storms, the suicidal behavior of plants like bamboo prior to a disaster, and the sudden fidgets and vexations experienced by people occasionally are all results of telepathy. 2 days ago, November 30th, 2003, I ran into a former colleague of mine. He had rented a luxury villa with a courtyard where 4 rows of grapevines, each 30 meters long, grew. He told me that the grapevines had not produced grapes for many years, but after he began to live in the villa, he watered the grapevines every 3 days, applied fertilizers, hoed up weeds, and dug up the soil. Now the grapevines are heavily laden with grapes, and he can earn a handsome sum of money from them alone. He said excitedly, "Plants will repay when they get enough care and protection from humans." This is also a kind of telepathy. In front of the window of the master bedroom in my yard, there is a tree whose name is unknown to me. It blooms small white and purple flowers, which emit a strong fragrance when the tree is in full bloom. One year, when I stood in front of the flowers, I muttered to myself, "These flowers are so beautiful and fragrant. How wonderful it would be if the tree is in bloom every day. It would be very good if the tree can flower many more times every year." 3 months later, the tree was in bloom once again. I asked the gardener, Gift, who had worked in this compound for nearly 10 years, whether this tree would flower twice every year. He replied, "No, it flowers only once every year, and I don't know why it has flowered twice this year." Suddenly, I realized that it was my wish that had prompted it to flower one more time. I felt very guilty. This is a flower tree with great spiritual nature. To satisfy my private needs, it has overstretched itself against the law of nature. It must have tried hard. The second time, the flowers had such a faint fragrance that one could hardly smell it. This is the result of overspending. I apologized in my mind, flower tree, I am deeply indebted to you for your kindness. I understand you now. Please don't overdo yourself again in the future. Meanwhile, Life Genuine will try its best to protect you and all the flowers, grass, and trees. You are silently dedicated to mankind, flowering to beautify the environment, bearing fruits for people to savor, afforesting to conserve water and soil, exhaling oxygen, and inhaling carbon dioxide to purify the environment, and photosynthesizing to create nourishment carbohydrates for humans and animals. Without you, there would be no insects, animals, and humans. You are the foundation on which life depends. Life at Genuine will make it its tenet to protect the lives of all living things. We humans should no longer be arrogant, conceited, and ungrateful. There is telepathy between plants and humans, as well as telepathy between humans and gods. I have a friend whose father was nearly 80 years old. He was kind-hearted, amicable, and genial, and very healthy in Zimbabwe. However, there was a period when he was vexed and troubled, insisting on returning home to his homeland in China. My friend had no choice but to send him back. Soon after, the old man passed away in his sleep. Why did the old man feel anxious and eager to return home when he was enjoying a very good life in Zimbabwe? This is the beckoning of the gods. Although he did not know it, the old man had experienced telepathy physiologically. Moreover, telepathy also occurs in many of our daily recreational activities. Last month, November 2003, my wife and I played poker games with some friends for 6 hours. The cards in our hands were very bad from beginning to end. Our friends had climbed over several mountains while my wife and I were still fixed at the starting point. Finally, I realized it was because my wife and I felt upset and distracted several days before. When one's mind is disturbed, the cards will also be a mess. Only if one has a calm mind will they get very good and orderly cards. You can try it if you're interested. Recently, another case of telepathy happened to me. I have the habit of reading Reader. Once I read several articles by the Taiwanese writer Lin Qingxian and discovered that Mr. Lin has a very high spiritual nature. As far as I can tell, however ignorant I may be, Mr. Lin is one of the people with the highest spiritual nature in the Chinese nation. I consider it great luck and happiness to read more of his books. However, I am abroad and have very little chance to buy his books. I never expected that recently a girl of my children's generation came from China and brought me 2 books written by Mr. Lin, Search the Homeland of Soul. Why did she buy books instead of anything else for me? Why did she buy Lin Qingxuan's book instead of other books? It turned out that this was a result of my telepathy. Seth said, physiological symptoms are communications from the inner self, indications that we are making mental errors of one kind or another. In other words, physical symptoms are a response of the body to psychological and spiritual ailments. All the wars, conflicts, natural disasters, and diseases in human history are the result of the mutual influence between gods, humans, animals, and plants. The Great Flood in the time of Noah was also a consequence of the induction caused by human conceit and arrogance. Remote sensing, sensation, and telepathy are all embodiments of Tao, as described by Lao Tzu in Tao Te Ching. Tao is an embodiment of the spirit of the greatest creator. Ultimately, remote sensing, sensation, and telepathy are programs designed by the greatest creator to maintain the balance of nature. We can hence feel the unfathomable profundity of the greatest creator's wisdom. 25. 腐化新生命的养料. 25. Decomposition, the nourishment for new life. Decomposition is a natural phenomenon in the natural world. It is a transformation of decay and putrefaction. Decay and putrefaction are undesirable, but decomposition is a form of energy conversion and a transcendent aspect of life. You can observe a fallen apple from the tree. It rots at the beginning, but after a period of time, only an empty shell is left. Then, after some time, even the empty shell vanishes. Where has the entire apple gone? It has undergone the process of decomposition. All things in the material world will go through decomposition, without which there would be no such material world. Just imagine, how can we have today's environment and civilization if the carcasses of animals remain intact for thousands of years, If the leaves fallen from the trees remain as fresh as ever, if the piled garbage does not rot, if the slave society and feudal system do not corrupt, and if despotism is always maintained, if the original religion does not corrupt, and if the ancient civilizations last for eternity, the rotten carcasses of animals and the decayed plants will be decomposed by microorganisms in soil or water and converted into nutrients, which can be absorbed and utilized by other plants. The ancient religion and civilization were decomposed by the development of the times and converted into knowledge and wisdom, which can be absorbed and utilized by the present religion and civilization. How perfect the design is! The waste is changed into valuable materials, and the corrupted is turned into wonders. Who is capable of such considerate and flawless thinking? The greatest creator. 26. 生死令凡俗人迷惑的现象. 26. Life and death, a phenomenon puzzling mortals and laity. This earth witnesses the birth and death of a huge number of animals and plants every day and every moment. Life and death is a universal phenomenon in nature. Everyone has embarked on the journey towards death since the moment of their birth. The happiness of life and the sadness of death are the basic emotions of mortals and laity. When a family welcomes the birth of a child, they are filled with joy, and when they lose a loved one, they experience profound sadness and grief. Apart from extraordinary beings like Jesus and Sakyamuni Buddha, who are transcendent, wise, and free from worldly concerns, few people can escape this cycle of confusion and grasp the true meaning of life and death. The tragedy of life lies in ignorance and the inability to transcend the cycle of life and death. For thousands of years, people have been seeking the way to immortality. Modern medicine and science are also probing into the secrets of longevity. I wonder why people are so happy about life but so grieved at death. Seeking life entails endless troubles, and seeking death brings infinite benefits. What would the world look like if none of the plants and animals on the earth died, and if our great-great-great-grandparents survived until today and each family had a thriving population? Some will think it would be best if they all die and we all survive. Well, suppose they all die and we all survive. See if we are better off. It would be okay as long as we can distinguish who they are and who we are. We must know at the same time that everyone wishes the same as you and me. Then in the end, who is to die and who is to survive? Is it so good to live and so bad to be dead? Take a look at human history, pay a visit to your neighbors, and ponder over the question of what good there is to live and what harm there is to die. Forget about time immemorial. Let's talk about the time from Sakyamuni Buddha to the present. How many people have lived a good life, and how many have suffered a bad death? Taking Chinese society as an example, antenatal training has been provided even before a baby is born. Abandoning the music of nature, the greatest creator, God, and Buddha, people spare no efforts to inoculate the fetus with the imperfect music of mankind. Immediately after birth, adults try every means to provide the little babies with toys and cartoons instead of having them get in touch with flowers, birds, insects, and fish in nature. Before the age of schooling, the children have begun their preschool education, learning piano, painting, kung fu, and dancing. They have no opportunity to bring their own instinct into play, nor have fun in nature. When the children have just begun to know about the world around them, they will be burdened with heavy and formless pressures. In addition to the heavy school bags and the endless homework, adults spare no efforts to add extra education for them. Moreover, endlessly lecturing began to pour onto children. You must be someone, you have to get full marks in exams, otherwise you'll be lagging behind others. Child, I am doing all this only for your good. You must work hard and strive to become an excellent student. You must enter top-tier middle school and then qualify yourself for study at a prestigious university. Otherwise, you will have no foothold in this society. Why are you so fond of playing, my kid? Look at Xiao Ming. She is so diligent and so promising. You must learn from her. These and many more lectures have left children at a loss. The 100-meter dash begins with middle school. Students are preoccupied with study and examinations day and night. Teachers and parents are carefully supervising and urging, and society is imprudently promoting the atmosphere of elites. As a result, the splendor of human nature is inundated in the endless darkness. Is it supposed to be easy after entering university? No, it's not. Comparing oneself to others in terms of food, clothing, housing, and transportation among classmates is a small matter. What's more serious is the forced indoctrination in the field of ideology and the blind and unlimited pursuit of knowledge. University is supposed to be a place to cultivate people with noble moral character, but the majority of universities are not cultivating living, breathing human beings, but rather robots who have lost themselves. We must bring honor to our ancestors, we must win glory for the motherland, and we must win credits for our nation. Colleges have been fostering narrow-minded notions. What's worse, some colleges and organizations are teaching students how to make their first fortune, how to rise in the world, and how to attract handsome men and beautiful women to themselves. This is a worrisome era. The real distress begins with graduation from universities. There are a bewildering number of roads ahead. Which one shall I take? The unbridgeable gap between dreams and reality, the intangible conflicts between ethics and interest, the marriage, the houses, the cars, and the expected splendid success. All these have put university students at loose ends, which has fragmented the entirety of their spiritual nature into an unbearable scene. If university graduates are like this, then those with no university education must have experienced even greater conflicts and misery in mind. Having married and established a family doesn't necessarily mean entering a safe harbor. Heart-wrenching matters often occur. Supporting elderly parents and raising children are common responsibilities, which people can endure. What they may find intolerable are the conflicts and battles between spouses. Additionally, the occurrences of birth, aging, sickness, death, separation from loved ones, resentment, aversion, encountering situations we wish to avoid, and impermanent events can stir up a once beautiful life into chaos. We see people on the streets, each of them looking vigorous and elegant. But once we get to know their inner world, we will find every one of them emaciated and fatigued. Many people in my neighborhood are businessmen. They all have nice houses, servants, and good cars. Then they should be happy and satisfied, right? The answer is no. When I chatted with them one day, one of them said, "Actually, if I have 1,000,000 yuan RMB, I will be doing well in China." Another person, as if he has heard the talking of an alien, taunted, "1,000,000? What can you do about it? It is barely enough to buy and decorate an apartment." Another said to me, "I heard you are writing a book, right? You are a little old-fashioned. Don't you know that in today's time you are everything if you have money, and you are nothing if you don't? Make haste to earn money." Yet another person, a woman, preached, "Nowadays money is God. How much is conscience worth?" I was overwhelmed, and I shuddered. No wonder they are constantly striving, always chasing after every penny and valuing money over everything else. I see the world as ruled by goblins, devils, and monsters. Am I wrong? Or am I the real devil? Or do I simply not fit in with this world at all? I feel that living is suffering, and human life is rightly a sea of suffering. The sea of suffering is boundless, but turning back is the shore. Turning back? What does turning back mean? Turning back means death. Why die? For living is worse than death. How to die? Nirvana. How can nirvana be achieved? Through self-improvement and self-refinement. How does one self-improve and self-refine? By raising consciousness and increasing wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the supreme and profound understanding of life and death. How can one acquire supreme and profound wisdom? By understanding what life and death are. Then what is life and what is death? That one is inexplicably brought into the world as a result of karma is called birth and life. That one rushes about blindly and departs the world unjustifiably is called death. Birth is accidental. Is death inevitable? Both birth and death are inevitable. Since both death and birth are inevitable, and individuals have no choice and cannot resist, then why do we have to understand life and death? By understanding life and death, one can cast off life and death. How can one cast off life and death? By reaching the realm of no birth, no death. What is the realm of no birth, no death? Elysium world is the realm of no birth, no death. What is Elysium world? Elysium world is one of the 36-dimensional spaces, namely the world described by Jesus and Sakyamuni. Is there really such a world? Or is it only a tale? Yes, there is. I am telling the truth. Then please demonstrate it to me. I cannot, because it is another time-space, which is invisible to the naked eye. The mirages that occur occasionally are part of Elysium world. Then there is no way to see it? Yes, there is. What way? Through spiritual sense. What is spiritual sense? A person has 6 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, which are respectively responsible for the 6 senses: vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and spiritual sense. Spiritual sense is the perception in everyone's consciousness and a spiritual nature apperception. Why does my spiritual sense not have such capability? Because your spiritual sense is too dull. Why is my spiritual sense dull? Because it has been polluted. What has polluted my spiritual sense? Your spiritual sense has been polluted by images in nature, the values of human society, and your prejudices. Then how can I restore my spiritual sense? By awakening to the truth. What is awakening to the truth? Awakening to the truth means getting to the bottom of a phenomenon. What is a phenomenon? A phenomenon can be anything that we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. According to you, there are too many phenomena. Yes, Buddhism talks about 84,000 Dharmapariyas, but actually, Dharmapariyas are unlimited. What is Dharmapariyaya? Dharmapariyaya is a means to grasp a phenomenon and find out the ultimate essence of its essence. What is essence? The essence is something concealed that causes the occurrence of a particular phenomenon. Then what is the ultimate essence of essence? The substrate causing the essence is the ultimate essence. That is to say, the greatest creator is the ultimate essence? Yes. How do we get to know the greatest creator? This book of mine can enlighten you on the understanding of the greatest creator. Oh, I see. What do you see? The birth of man is like falling into the sea of suffering, and so it is something lamentable. The death of man, however, is like being severed from the sea of suffering, and so it is something delightful. Yes, but not entirely. Why? Because death is not the final resting place. Why is death not the final resting place? Didn't you say that man will enter the Elysium world after death? Death is only a surface phenomenon. Behind death is the transmigration of life. Some people will return to the human world after death, some will become animals after death, some will enter the 1,000-year world, and some will go to the 10,000-year world. Only a very limited number of people will go to the Elysium world after death. So how can we feel happy if some people are even worse and are more miserable than in the human world after death? Your preaching about past lives, afterlives, and reincarnation is too inscrutable. How can we believe in something that cannot be proved by science? Science is materialism. Science cannot prove what is beyond the material world. But the universe is composed of material and non-material. Science can only prove half of the universe, not the other half. Take my consciousness, for example. How big is it? What color is it? How heavy is it? What shape does it have? Science cannot provide answers to these and many other questions. Therefore, you cannot entirely negate what cannot be proven by science. Then can you prove that man has past lives and afterlives? Yes. One is the records about past lives in history, which can be found in the literature of many nationalities. Another is the record of facts by the International Near-Death Research Institute. The third is the descriptions by the sages and saints like Jesus and Sakyamuni. These are only legends, hearsays, or religious doctrines, and thus are not convincing. Can you come up with something new? Yes, homosexuality is an example. The rule for the biological world is that same sexes repel each other, and opposite sexes attract each other. So why is there homosexuality? And why can homosexual love be so dear as to risk one's life? This involves the gender of one's past life. If a woman has a past life as a man, the inertia of biology will continue to play its role and will incline her to instinctively like a woman instead of a man, although she has become a woman in this life. When she meets a woman with the same past life, they will easily connect and fall in love with each other. Similarly, if a man has his past life as a woman, then he will still be inclined towards men in this life. Homosexuality is not a morbidity, but a spontaneous instinct, which may fade away with the passage of time. Moreover, there is a saying, rivers and mountains may be changed, but it's hard to alter a man's nature. What is true nature, and why is it unchangeable? Nature refers to innate characteristics. When does nature come into being? Is it during primary school? When held in mother's arms? Since the time of the embryo in the mother's body? Since the time of existence in the womb? Or since the combination of sperm and ovum? If nature begins from the time mentioned above, then there is no question of hard to alter a man's nature. Therefore, it can be concluded that nature has been around for centuries and is deeply rooted, unlikely to change in a relatively short period. We can observe people around us or study some special individuals. By comparing their habits to those of certain animals, we can easily deduce that certain people possess the original nature of those animals. Thus, we can conclude that such people may have been those animals in their past life. For example, for thousands of years, philosophers and thinkers have pondered the question, "Who am I?" but have failed to answer it. Who am I? Am I my family? No, because I am still myself even without my family. Am I my clothes? No, because I am still myself after I undress. Am I my teeth? No, because I am still myself even after losing all my teeth. Am I my hair? No, because I am still myself even if I become bald. Am I my eyes? No, because I am still myself even if I become blind. Am I my legs? No, because I am still myself even if I am amputated. Am I my heart? No, because I am still myself after organ transplantation. Am I my blood? No, because I am still myself even after a blood transfusion. If I am none of these, then who on earth am I? Well, I am Tathagata. What is Tathagata? Tathagata is the essential origin, the consciousness, soul, that already exists beyond the flesh and endures hardships in this world by residing in this home of my flesh. When this home of my flesh ceases to exist, I still exist. All I have to do is find another home. It's like crossing a river. I borrowed a boat, but I would give up the boat and go on shore after I crossed. Buddhism preaches that an enlightened heart is perceptive of nature, which is perceptive of Buddha. If we understand this principle, we are already Tathagata Buddha. We will go directly to the Elysium world after death and won't have to return to the human world to continue struggling. All right, regarding the phenomenon of life and death, let's discuss just these briefly. My purpose is not to stick to the facts, but to explain that the phenomenon of life and death, which is difficult to reverse, is determined by the greatest creator and has its own purpose and meaning. Without the greatest creator, there would be no life, let alone life and death. 27. 公鸡打鸣. 27. The crowing of roosters. I grew up in the countryside, and I have vivid memories of roosters crowing. Especially when I needed to wake up early, my diligent and kind mother would use the crowing of roosters to determine the time, prepare breakfast and packed food in advance, and then wake me up. Roosters crow 3 times each night at regular intervals. The first crowing is at about 3:30 in the early morning, the second around 4:30, and the last around dawn. Excuse me, the time of crowing may not be accurate because I have been away from my hometown for more than 2 decades, and I am now living in an area where no crowing of roosters can be heard. Some people say that roosters crow to tell other roosters, "This is my territory, and do not come in." Others say that roosters crow to attract hens. I would say that roosters crow to tell people the time. Prior to industrial civilization, people did not have clocks and watches. For survival, they had to know the time of the night. For example, 2 or more people on a hunting trip would set the second crowing as the time to get up. Or a group of people were to complete a certain task together and set the third crowing as the time to gather at the end of the village. Roosters crowing is involuntary. It is a conditioned reflex or induction of its biological clock in its body against the stimulation of the magnetic wave of the magnetic field when the Earth rotates to a certain angle. The rooster is not aware that its crowing is to tell people the time of day and serve people, just like us humans who are living on the Earth and are not aware that we are serving the greatest creator. The rooster cannot realize the meaning of its crowing late at night, but the man who creates the rooster is well aware of the meaning. In the universe, there is no sound that does not have a purpose. The man who creates the rooster does so for the convenience of human survival, and thus has created this miracle. If roosters could realize the purpose of their crowing, they would stop doing so when they see that many of their friends and relatives have been killed by humans. If the crowing is to warn others of their own species not to violate their territory, they will not do so late at night, thinking to themselves, "Who will come to invade my territory at such late hours? I'd better conserve my energy and strength till tomorrow and fight off whoever has the nerve to invade my territory." If the rooster wants to attract more hens, it should also be aware that during the day, the hens need to lay eggs and take care of their chicks, so they would not pay attention to him if he crows late at night. It would be better for him to get a good night's sleep, keep his energy, and wait for dawn to come before he spends time with his wives, concubines, mistresses, and wildflowers on the roadside. Therefore, the rooster's crowing is only automatic behavior, but the rooster's unintentional crowing serves conscious purposes. Then, who designed this purpose? Who but the greatest creator? 28. 蜜蜂的智慧. 28. The wisdom of bees. What kind of house structure is most reasonable if we humans are to construct several hundred houses, each of which accommodates only one person temporarily incapable of activity, while taking the least material and labor and having the strongest structure, the most beautiful appearance, and the greatest cubage? Should the houses be made of interconnected cylinders? No, the different sizes of human legs and waists may prove a waste of some space, and the waste of space means the waste of labor and materials. So it is not the most economical way of house building. In addition, cylinders have too little contact area between them, and it is not enough to serve as a wall for 2 rooms. Should the houses be made of interconnected cubes? No, the 4 corners will be a waste of space. It does not look very pretty either. Should the houses be made of adjoining octahedrons? No, the more sides a structure has, the more difficult it is to build and more time-consuming. Should houses be made of many irregular shapes? No, the houses thus constructed will not appear good, besides a lot of more time and material may be wasted. Then what structure is most reasonable? The honeycomb of bees is the most ideal structure. The honeycomb is made up of hexagonal columns. Since the lower part and middle part of the larva are different in sizes, the bottom of the honeycomb has been made into three congruent rhombuses. In 1712, the astronomer G.F. Maraldi of Paris Observatory concluded through measurement that the obtuse angle of the rhombus is 109.28 degrees and the acute angle is 70.32 degrees. For these figures, a French scientist specially consulted a Swiss mathematician. What is the most economical way in terms of materials to construct a hexagonal column with a bottom consisting of three congruent rhombuses? The mathematician's result is that the column can use the least possible material only if the obtuse angle of the rhombuses is 109.28 degrees and the acute angle is 70.32 degrees. Wow! The bees are too wonderful. Long before the birth of man, they have solved the problem that man has not discovered and realized until now. Each bee knows that the column can be constructed most effectively and economically only if the obtuse and acute angles of the rhombuses are respectively 109.28 degrees and 70.32 degrees. For us humans, only the greatest mathematicians can work out the result. How can ordinary people compare with those tiny bees? Are bees smarter, more intelligent, and wiser than humans? If this is the case, why don't the bees know for whom they have toiled by gathering honey from hundreds of flowers? Humans are not only reluctant to give to others what belongs to them, but are always calculating to encroach upon what belongs to others, even wanting to occupy all the properties of the world for their own good. So, are the tiny bees carrying forward the unselfish communism style? If bees have such advanced wisdom and an open mind, they must have, according to the theory of evolution, evolved into creatures far superior to humans long ago, since they came to the earth long before the birth of humans. Why have humans overtaken bees in evolution? The founder of the theory of evolution, Darwin, exclaimed, "Natural selection is powerless to explain such a perfect structure of the honeycomb because as we see it, either in terms of labor or the use of beeswax, the honeycomb conforms to the theory of maximum economy and is absolutely perfect." Then, even the originator of the theory of evolution has realized that the wisdom of bees does not result from evolution. We are also clear that the wisdom of bees cannot compare with that of humans. And bees would certainly not carry forward the unselfish communism style for humans who have been severely exploiting them. Then there is only one origin of their wisdom: instinct. What is instinct? Instinct is the capability possessed after birth. The capability possessed after birth proved to be contradictory to the theory of evolution. So, is the theory of evolution a fallacy? Doesn't the inborn capability prove that everything has been what it is now from the very beginning? Doesn't the inborn capability prove that things are not developed through evolution but are created? Doesn't the inborn capability prove the ability of the greatest creator who has created everything? Aren't the degrees of the acute and obtuse angles of the rhombuses at the bottom of the honeycomb designed by the greatest creator and added to the instinct of the bees? Do we still want to deny the existence of the greatest creator? 29th 小鸡破壳出. 29. The chick hatches from its eggshell. The chick emerges from its eggshell after 21 days of being hatched by the hen. During this time, the yolk and egg white inside the egg transform into a chick. Before hatching, the chick is isolated from the outside world, and it does not learn how to break the shell from any external source. Despite this, the chick eventually manages to break the shell and enter the world. The rooster spends all day trying to seduce hens and never cares about the life or death of the chicks. Even if the mother hen complains that the rooster doesn't take care of the household chores or educate the offspring, the rooster has an excuse. Who knows if I am the father of this little thing? Last month, I saw you fooling around with the neighbor's rooster. Well, the rooster won't pass on any experience to the unhatched chicks. So, did the mother hen teach the chicks how to break out of the eggshell? No. If it had the consciousness to teach the chicks this, It would be better to just help the chicks break the shell itself. So, who taught the chick? Who told the chick about the colorful and wonderful world outside? And how does the chick know that its tender little beak can peck through the eggshell? Why is the eggshell thick enough to protect the chick yet thin enough for the chick to break through? There is only one answer: instinct. Instinct is not evolutionary. It is innate. This means that the first chick hatched from the first egg laid by the first chicken on Earth already knew that there was a world outside the eggshell where it could survive, and that its small pointed beak was strong enough to break through the eggshell. Of course, it does not have this awareness. When the time comes, it just pecks its way out. So, since it is instinct, and since the first chick hatched from the first egg on Earth already possessed this instinct without any genetic information, we can only ask the greatest creator.
30候鸟迁徙，奥秘在哪？
30. What is the secret of bird migration? When I was young, I used to see flocks of wild geese flying in the blue sky in my homeland in late summer and early autumn. Just as described in the primary school textbook, autumn is coming and it is getting cooler. A flock of wild geese is flying southward, sometimes in the formation of the fork and sometimes in a line. One day, at the turn of the rainy and dry season this year, I was queuing at a service station in Zimbabwe, where petrol was in short supply. Suddenly, some noises in the sky caught my attention. I looked out of the car window and spotted a dozen crow-like birds perched on a large tree not very far away. They were flapping their wings and making caw-caw-caw noises. Out of curiosity and boredom, I began to watch them, figuring that they must be holding a meeting and discussing the implementation of a certain project. Unexpectedly, however, their calls attracted more and more birds of the same species from all directions. In less than half an hour, nearly 1,000 birds had gathered. Suddenly, they flew away from the big tree and hovered and rose higher and higher in the sky. I wondered whether they were holding a party in this manner of hovering, or were they selecting Miss International with the most elegant flight. I came out of the car and stood on the lawn beside the road, watching them. They were hovering higher and higher in the sky until they looked smaller and smaller. I wondered, are they competing to fly the highest? Unexpectedly, the birds that flew the highest suddenly flew northwest along a straight line. The others were still circling, but they also flew along the same straight line when they reached the same height, as if they had boarded a train and rode away along the fixed railway. I finally came to realize after hard thought that those must be migratory birds. At the beginning, they clambered on the tree to hail the flock to fly together to a distant place. Later, they flew by hovering in order to increase altitude. When they reached a certain height, they met an air current. It helped them to fly to distant places more easily. Oh, how clever the migratory birds are! After returning home, I checked some documents about migratory birds and discovered more surprising facts. For example, Arctic terns build nests in the Arctic Circle. They fly to the South Pole at the turn of summer and autumn. They fly back to the North Pole next year. Every year they travel for 35,200 kilometers. There is an oriole called Blackpoll warbler, small in size and weighing only 20-odd grams. Before autumn comes, they fly from Alaska, America, to the east coast of Canada or New England, where they feast on all the dainty food to increase its fat and strength. Then, when it is turning cold, they begin a long journey of flight, first toward Africa, over the Atlantic Ocean, then after taking over an air current, they turn to Brazil and South America. The whole journey is 3,840 kilometers at an altitude of more than 6,000 meters. The flight lasts 4 days and 4 nights. The white storks in Europe fly 12,800 kilometers to spend the winter in South Africa. The long-tailed cuckoos in New Zealand fly 6,400 kilometers to spend the winter in the Pacific Islands. Seagulls in England's Isle of Man fly from Wales to Brazil at over 700 kilometers a day for 16 consecutive days. The wild geese fly over the Himalayas mountains at an altitude of 9,000 meters. What is more incredible is that generally, the older generations of cuckoos start their journey earlier. Smaller cuckoos usually start their migration a few days later. Unaccompanied by their parents, small cuckoos make their first flight to a strange place and can fly to their destination unerringly and unite with their parents. On the contrary, young starlings set off earlier than their parents and reach their destination all by themselves. Marvelous. Incredible. I wonder how they know that the cold weather is coming. How do they know which day is suitable for flight? How do they know that there is an air current at an altitude of thousands of meters? How do they know that this air current would carry them to their desired place? How do they know that that remote place is now a time of spring and flowers with sufficient food? What power has propelled them to embark upon such an epic journey across oceans? How do they travel round trip without going astray? How do they identify directions while flying? How do they find their habitat without being accompanied and guided by their parents? I searched for scientists' explanations and found the following 4 major answers. Something like a biological clock inside the migratory bird can sense the upcoming cold and the appropriate time to take off and can calculate the position of the sun while flying in the sky and determine its direction and route of flying by continuously adjusting the angle between itself and the sun or stars with the help of the sun, the moon, and the stars. An inherent meteorologist, migratory birds can determine the duration of their stay at the habitat and the timing of migration according to meteorological conditions such as temperature, lighting, wind direction, and rainfall. They can choose a sunny day to begin their flight, adjust their flying manner according to the changes and fluctuations of wind directions and barometric pressures, and make use of the ascending air current for gliding to save their energy. Extremely sensitive to geomagnetic waves, migratory birds can identify their directions according to geomagnetic waves and can decide the time of migration and habitat according to the geomagnetic information known to them. Through millions of years of evolution, birds have gradually realized the rules governing the seasonal changes of climates and have formed a fixed pattern through generations of accumulation of experience and passed on the genetic information to each succeeding generation. All 4 explanations above seem reasonable, but a deeper analysis may reveal that they are fanciful and groundless. According to the first explanation, it seems that migratory birds can calculate their own positions, identify their direction, and derive the direction and route of flight based on the position of the sun. Well, isn't it the migratory birds who calculate the airflow at an altitude of several kilometers? Wow! Migratory birds are much smarter than Einstein. With a brain the size of a little finger, they can calculate the airflow in the sky at an altitude of several kilometers without using instruments or measurements. Moreover, they can fly and calculate their direction without using a compass, a sextant, a compass, or a calculator. It's too miraculous and extraordinary. This explanation is too mythological and absurd. According to the second explanation, migratory birds are born meteorologists who can take off on a sunny day by choosing different climatic conditions. This suggests that migratory birds are more knowledgeable than all the scientists and engineers in meteorological bureaus worldwide. However, in abnormal weather conditions, migratory birds might miss the air current in the sky and have to wait for the cold current. This could be fatal for them. Swallows always return accurately to the nests they built the year before. It is said that swallows in a small town in America always return at dawn on March 29th of the following year. How should we interpret this phenomenon? The third explanation is a little mythical. Migratory birds can identify the direction through geomagnetic waves and decide the time of migration and habitat according to the geomagnetic information known to them. However, it is unclear how migratory birds can detect the existence of air currents at an altitude of thousands of meters using geomagnetic waves. The fourth explanation is a typical theory of evolution and seems flawless. As we know from the description of the chick's breaking of the eggshell in the preceding section, the theory of evolution is challenged by the fact that the first chick hatched from the first egg laid by the first hen on Earth could break the shell without inheriting any genetic information or shell-breaking skills. Therefore, is the theory tenable when it comes to migratory birds? Based on the radioactive isotope determination method, scientists believe that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old. Animals appeared about 1.8 billion years ago, invertebrates about 438 million years ago, fish about 380 million years ago, amphibians about 290 million years ago, and reptiles about 245 million years ago. Dinosaurs died out about 135 million years ago, mammals appeared around 65 million years ago, and humans appeared about 1.6 million years ago. First, let's not question the accuracy of the radioactive isotope dating method. Assuming that this method is reliable, birds have existed on Earth for at least several hundred million years. If they are intelligent enough to pass on information to their offspring about how to navigate, select favorable habitats, fly from the North Pole to the South Pole, use air currents for flight, and locate the places where their ancestors lived, why haven't they evolved into more advanced animals over the course of millions of years? Instead, humans have taken over and made it impossible for them to escape our air guns and nets. Do birds not want to continue evolving, or have they hit a roadblock in their evolution? If we don't believe in the greatest creator, we can only think randomly. The question of whether the egg has appeared before the chick, or the chick has appeared before the egg will remain a mystery for another 10,000 years. My explanation for the migration of birds is that everything in nature has its definite purposes and means of subsistence, and they each have features irreplaceable by other species. Otherwise, all will die out. What if tigers can both dominate the mountains and fly in the sky? What if mice can dig holes and also can build nests in trees? What if antelopes can live on grass and also eat the flesh of other animals? What if dogs can give birth to offspring and also can lay eggs? What if apple trees can bear apples and also bear watermelons? Wow, it's really amazing. The answer for migratory birds' migration is instinct. Just like bees that build honeycombs with a rhombus bottom consisting of 109.28 degrees obtuse angles and 70.32 degrees acute angles. What is instinct? 31. 动物本能，上帝智慧的显现。31. Animals' instincts, the revelation of the wisdom of the greatest creator. It is not the case that roosters can crow, bees can build honeycombs, chicks can break eggshells, and migratory birds can migrate because these animals possess great wisdom or are good at learning and summarizing experiences. Rather, their instincts are the revelation of the greatest creator who has created them. In addition to the above examples of instincts, there are many other instances. Termites can build air-conditioned nests. Many fish can discharge electricity. An American eel can discharge electricity of 880 volts. Fireflies can produce light. Dragonflies can rise vertically or make designed fly in the air. Turtles can lay their eggs in warm sand for them to hatch and protect themselves. Chameleons can change the colors of their bodies at will, and bats can locate food via sonar in pitch darkness. Mollusks like snails have a tough home to protect themselves. Now let's look at the bird's skill in nest building. An African weaver bird, in particular, can select soft twigs and grass to build an apartment that holds snakes at bay and keeps water from leaking in. Silkworms can spin silk, spiders can weave webs, and homing pigeons can locate their own nests. The ants are capable of well-organized and well-planned collective activities. Worms can restore themselves if one part of their bodies is cut off. Military dogs have extremely sensitive olfaction. All these are the embodiment of animals' instincts, which are not results of millions of years of evolution, but have existed from the very moment the animals appear on Earth. If we attribute animals' instincts to the wisdom and talents of animals without looking for their creator behind them, then it is as if we are seeing planes flying in the sky and marveling at the wisdom and cleverness of the plane, neglecting the wisdom and talents of the plane's manufacturer. 32. 天女散花，蒲公英的绝技。32. Celestial beauty scattering flowers, the stunt of dandelions. I remember that when I was young, there used to be clumps of dandelions growing beside the aqueducts, on the ridges of fields, and on waste grasslands in my hometown. We called them spur arrowroot, and a traditional Chinese medicine doctor called them thistle. They can be used as medicine. A perennial herb, dandelions have yellow or aubergine flowers. When the flower seeds are ripe, on the crown will grow many white flocky umbrella-shaped silky strands. With a small wind, these umbrella-shaped silky strands will carry the flower seeds and fly to a distance. My most unforgettable memory of dandelions is when I plucked a handful of flower seeds with my young playmates and placed them close to the mouth and puffed at them vehemently to see whose flower seeds can fly the highest. The blown flower seeds are like several hundreds of paratroopers who jumped simultaneously off the plane. The scene is very spectacular. One day while we were enjoying ourselves, Grandma asked us, "Look, why do these flower seeds have hair on their ends? Whoever can answer this will get a piece of rock candy as a reward." Looking at each other, none of us knew the answer. My grandma said, "The hairs on the end of the flower seeds of spur arrowroot are to carry the seeds to a more distant place when the hairs fly with the wind. If they fall to the original place, all the seeds will grow in the same place the following year, and the family will be too crowded." Oh, this turns out to be the secret. In nature, plants have a great many ways to spread their seeds. I think dandelions are the smartest. They grow hairs so that the wind can scatter their seeds to a faraway place. The design is ingenious and unique and can be called a stunt in this aspect. Another plant looks a little like Siberian cocklebur, of which the leaves resemble the donkey's ears in size and shape, so it is also called donkey's ear by my vernacular. I remember once my cousin was infuriated when he sheared about a dozen sheep at home. Why? Because there were a lot of Siberian cockleburs attached to the sheep's wool. In each Siberian cocklebur, there were about 30 bristles, and on the top of the bristle was a barb. The barbs had tightly grabbed the sheep's wool, and it was extremely difficult to take them off and had to be torn off one by one. Look, the plants that look like Siberian cocklebur are also very clever. They use barbs to clutch at anything that they come up with, so that their children can be brought to a distant place to expand their territory of growth. I can remember another time when my wife and I went on a trip to a lakeside. We drove from Harare. After driving along Bulawayo for more than 40 kilometers and turning left for more than 10 kilometers, we could see the lake. We parked the car at the campsite beside the lake and walked along the grass clumps on the lakeside. We had to stop after walking for only 20 minutes. It turned out that the woolen skirt of my wife was covered with thousands of grass seeds, whose names I did not know. From one side of the seed stuck out a forked burr, which has a barb on its top. The barbs hitched the wools of the skirt and could not be gotten rid of by shaking or by brushing. We had no choice but to return to the campsite, where we spent nearly 2 hours taking them off one by one. It was clear that the grass also has its skills to disperse its offspring. In addition to the methods of seed dispersal employed by dandelions, Siberian cocklebur, and grass, I have also seen another way in which plants spread their seeds. When I lived in room number 11 next to the Bulgarian embassy in Harare, there was a plant in the garden that looked like a small tree. I did not know its name. One day, I accidentally spotted many walnut-sized fruits on the plant, and out of curiosity, I picked one. Before I peeled it, it exploded and dozens of seeds were ejected. These fruit-like things had only a very thin husk, and inside them was air. When they were inflated with air, they would blow up automatically, ejecting the seeds from inside. It is amazing to think that each plant has its own magic powers to spread its seeds. Did they themselves figure out all these wonderful methods of seed dispersal? Can the theory of evolution offer an explanation? Or were these stunts designed by someone who created them? Why don't we say that alarm clocks are wise and clever in keeping good time and giving correct time? Why don't we say that inductive missiles possess wisdom? Why don't we say that computers are incomparably wise and intelligent when they can search millions of pieces of related information in a few microseconds? Why don't we say that robots, radios, televisions, and video cameras are clever and smart? Because we know that they don't possess wisdom and talents themselves, but only reflect the wisdom and talents of their creators behind them. Then why don't we attribute animals and plants' instincts to the greatest creator that made them? Millions of scientists all over the world are racking their brains and investing a huge amount of manpower and money to explore the talent and wisdom of animals and plants. Have they found the root of the question? I can say for sure that if we don't look through the phenomena and investigate the power behind them, we will only see the moon reflected in the water instead of seeing the real one hanging in the sky, and we will remain completely ignorant even if we are given another 100,000 years. When a dog sees a robot at work, it may think that the robot must be extremely intelligent and wise. The reason is that the dog does not know that the robot is made by man. Then why do we think that the weaver bird is unfathomably clever when seeing it build nests on a branch? Are we different from dogs in thinking? 33神秘的金字塔招是着什么? 33. What do the mysterious pyramids signify? Nearly 1,000 pyramids have appeared on Earth, where humans reside. Pyramids are not only found in the Egyptian desert but also along the 30-degree latitude lines in the North and South Pacific, the North and South Atlantic, and the South Indian Ocean. They have also appeared in southern Honshu of Japan, the Mediterranean, and along the coast of Portugal, the southeastern part of Africa in the southern hemisphere, the west coast of Australia, and the northern area of New Zealand. The pyramids were not built by humans, or it can be said that they were not built by the ancestors of present-day humans. Instead, they were built by gods who were instructed by the greatest creator. The gods then dispatched angels, celestial beings, and Buddhas to the earth to build them. If this is difficult to understand, we can say that they were built by aliens who came to the earth. The purpose of the pyramids was to receive and accumulate energy from the universe to supply the energy for the creation of life and humans on Earth. The pyramids can be viewed as laboratories and cultivation sites for the creation of life and humans. The pyramids in Egypt were designed and built for the creation of humans, while other pyramids were built for the creation of other life forms. Since different life forms require different energies, the foundations of the pyramids are not all squares. Some are triangles, pentagons, and hexagons. The pyramids of Egypt are only 12,000 years old, while other pyramids are 2 billion years old. To understand how the pyramids were built and why they were built along the 30 degrees north and south latitude, please refer to the articles The Origin of Life and The Origin of Humanity. When I was an English teacher in a secondary school, I taught my students an article about the pyramids that was in the textbook. At that time, I had not yet awakened, but the mysteries of the pyramids, especially the transportation of the huge stones weighing several tons and the tightness of the gaps between the stones, left me puzzled. When it was said that hundreds of thousands of Egyptians spent decades building the Khufu pyramid, I held a skeptical attitude. Later, a series of events that occurred to me, scenes in my dreams, and strange fragments that appeared in my consciousness when I was contemplating, finally made me awaken. Suddenly, the origin of the universe, the origin of the greatest creator, the origin of life, the origin of humanity, 36-dimensional spaces, and so on surged out like a tide. Once these things came out, I was no longer myself. A powerful force compelled me to act according to its consciousness. I now feel like a robot, like a servant. I have to write, keep writing. Only by outlining what is in my head can I feel at ease. Otherwise, it will drive me crazy. Regarding the pyramids, I collected an article from King Eunju for everyone to contemplate and analyze. The full text is as follows. There are about 80 scattered pyramids on the west bank of the lower Nile River. They are the tombs of ancient Egyptian pharaohs, kings. Egyptians call them Barimus, pyramids, meaning high. From all sides, they are an isosceles triangle with a smaller top and a larger bottom, very similar to the Chinese character Jin, gold, so people vividly call them pyramid. 一浩繁的工程 An incredibly complicated project. The greatest pyramid is the tomb of the pharaoh Khufu of the 4th dynasty. Built around 2700 BC, the pyramid is 146.5 meters high, equivalent to a 40-story skyscraper. The foundation of the pyramid is a square, and the length of each side is 230.6 meters. The pyramid covers an area of about 52,900 square meters. The Great Pyramid was built with approximately 2.3 million stones of different sizes. The lightest stone weighed 1.5 tons, and the average weight was about 2.5 tons, with a total weight of approximately 6.848 million tons. If we were to use trucks with a carrying capacity of 7 tons, it would require 978,286 trucks. If we were to connect these trucks end to end, the total length would be 6,200 kilometers, which is longer than the distance from Hainan Island in southern China to Mo in the north, or from the Pamir Plateau in the west to Shanghai in the east. Along the banks of the Yangtze River, the trucks would stretch from the Tuochuo River in the upper reaches to the Wusong entrance in the lower reaches. The second largest pyramid, just 3 meters shorter than the Great Pyramid, is the Khafre Pyramid, which is accompanied by a huge stone sculpture, the Sphinx with a human face and a lion's body. According to legend, in 2610 BC, the third pharaoh of the 4th dynasty of Egypt, Khafre, inspected his almost completed tomb and found a large abandoned boulder in the quarry. He ordered the stonemason to carve the statue according to his own face. The statue is 22 meters tall and 75 meters long. It wears a Nemes crown. On its forehead, there is a relief of a cobra. Under its chin, it is trailing a beard more than 5 meters long. The statue is stately and mysterious. When Napoleon occupied Egypt in 1798, he ordered the Sphinx to be bombarded with gunfire. However, it remained unmoved, but for a few broken beards, which are now preserved in the British Museum. According to Napoleon's rough estimate, if the stone pieces of the 3 neighboring pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure were used to build a stone wall 3 meters high and 1 meter thick, it could encircle the entire France. Where did the massive number of stone pieces come from? Investigations show that ordinary stone pieces might have been quarried locally, but the 115,000 pieces of top-quality white limestone used on the outer layer might have been obtained from the quarry on the east bank of the Nile. The granite in the tomb chamber might have been quarried from Aswan, 500 miles away. Mining, transportation, river transport, and shore operations required not only a large number of stonemasons, construction workers, transport workers, and sailors, but also a considerable number of engineers, construction supervisors, managers, and a military force with sufficient suppression capabilities, which are also essential. Moreover, they needed to eat, wear clothes, live, and consume, which required a large service staff. Of course, this does not include the elderly, women, and children who are weaker in labor, nor does it include monks and nobles who gain without labor. According to an estimate, a national workforce of 50 million people would be needed to support such a construction project. However, it is generally believed that the total population of the world would not exceed 20 million around 3000 BC. What's more, there have been more than 80 pyramids discovered. Even if a pyramid could be completed in 30 years, as Herodotus stated in History, it would still require a total of 2,400 years to complete all the pyramids. Can Egypt sustain such massive consumption over such a long period? 2. 运输之谜. The mystery of transportation. The most pressing and realistic problem was transportation. Even if Egypt had adequate manpower, it could not transport the megaliths weighing 2.5 to 160 tons to the worksite. Were they carried by carts and driven by horses? No, at that time, there were no carts and horses in Egypt. Horses and carts were introduced from abroad in the 16th century BC, namely 1,000 years after the building of the Pyramid of Khufu. Some believe that the stone pieces were transported via rolling transportation with crow plates and logs. But this method requires a large quantity of timber. However, at that time, the trees in Egypt were mainly palms, which could not meet the need for transportation in terms of quantity, growth speed, and rigidity. And it was almost impossible to import timbers. Some people believe it was a water transportation method. In 1980, the inspector of the Gizeh Antiquities in Egypt, Hawass, conducted rock core sampling and discovered a rock quay at least 50 meters deep, which may have been excavated during the 4th dynasty of Egypt as a port. Later, someone discovered a canal that connected the port. However, without pulleys, winches, or advanced lifting equipment, it would have been even more difficult to transport such bulky giant stones downhill, onto ships, and onto the shore than to move them on land. Moreover, there was a drop of at least 50 feet between the water surface and the rocky shore. And the pyramid on the west bank of the Nile had to use stones from the east bank of the Nile. Apart from land and water transportation, could they have used air transportation? This is truly a mystery. A French industrial chemist studied the pyramids from a chemical and microscopic perspective and believed that the stone blocks were not solid, but were composed of a mixture of substances such as limestone, rocks, and shells. Because the adhesive used had strong adhesive force, it was almost impossible to distinguish whether it was natural stone or artificial stone. This certainly solves the problem of transportation difficulties appropriately. However, as further evidence, the discovery of a 2.5 centimeters long human hair in the stone blocks is not enough, and this outstanding adhesive is not only not recorded in ancient books, but also has not been analyzed by modern means by the chemist.
三建筑之谜
The mystery of construction. Legend has it that Imhotep, the designer and architect of the pyramid, was the first talent in history to transcend his time. His talent surpassed the time to such an extent as to cause natural amazement and suspicion. It was extremely difficult to turn a gigantic protruding rock into a 52,900 square meter foundation of the pyramid. They completed the survey and construction of the foundation without the help of graders, power equipment, and modern measurements. The 4 hemlines of the foundation have a discrepancy of less than 20 centimeters, and the error rate is less than 1,000th. There is only a difference of 1.27 centimeters between its heights in the southeast corner and northwest corner, and the error rate is less than 1/10,000th. The force position error between its east-west axis and north-south axis is no more than 5 arcseconds. They did not have units of measurement except for the arm's length. 300 arms lengths equal approximately 155 meters as a measurement unit. It is really puzzling how they could construct with such accuracy. To ensure the pyramid's lasting, the designers did not use a single pole or nail to avoid hidden trouble since wood is liable to decay and iron is susceptible to rusting. There is no bonding material between the stone pieces, but they fit perfectly. Even the thinnest blade cannot penetrate. How the chunks of stone were hoisted and placed one upon another is an even more mysterious subject that provokes endless guesses. Some people say that a wooden boat-shaped tool was used to lever the megaliths up and lay them one after another. But where did the fulcrum and ropes that could lift several, dozens, or even more than 100 tons of stone come from? Some people claim that the sand filling method was employed. Sand was piled along the pyramid's foundation. The sand pile would rise with the height of the foundation and acted as scaffolds. After the pyramid was completed, the sand would be cleared away. Now let's work on a mathematical problem. The 146-meter pyramid is a cone with a square bottom and a pointed top. The foundation of the pyramid is a square with a side length of 230 meters. Question: what is its volume? If the periphery of the foundation is surrounded by sand to form a slope for the transport of stone, and the angle of the slope is 30 or 25 degrees, then how long will be the hemline of the sand pile? Suppose the height of the sand pile is also 146 meters. How many cubic meters of sand will be needed? Where does all this massive amount of sand come from? Besides, the filling and removing of the sand would double the workload. Some people say that the salt filling method was employed with the same procedure as the sand filling method. After the pyramid was completed, water could be used to dissolve the salt, and there was no need to move it away. But it would be much more difficult to obtain so much salt. In addition, a storm would melt away a whole salt slope. It is also believed that mud bricks from the Nile were used to build the twisting slopes, which rose layer by layer. The result was similar to that of the sand slope, the only difference being that mud bricks were less available than sand. There is an entrance 13 meters from the ground in the north of the pyramid. Since the 9th century, tomb robbers, explorers, and investigators have frequented the pyramids in close succession. However, its inner structure remains a mystery. There are labyrinth-like passageways and tomb chambers inside the pyramid. The walls are smooth and decorated with reliefs. The passageways have neatly constructed steps extending like veins toward the tomb chambers deep underground. The chamber has vent holes leading outside the pyramid. It is said that the soul of the dead can freely enter and go out of the pyramid through these holes. Strangely, the two vent holes aim at Draco, eternity, and Orion, resurrection, respectively. They are probably the places where souls ascend. 3 such chambers have been discovered, while archaeologists believe that there are at least 4 more chambers to be discovered. Could people 4,000 years ago accomplish such ingenious and exquisite designs and conceptions? Most surprisingly, there have been no traces of torches used for lighting in any mausoleum. Archaeologists have used modern instruments to analyze the dust that has been accumulated for 4,600 years. No ashes have been discovered, nor are there any traces suggesting that soot has been scraped off. We should know that these instruments can analyze 1/millionth of the chemical ingredients inside each particle of dust. They could not have carved reliefs, cleaned chambers, or moved the corpse of the pharaoh in total darkness. What kind of lighting have they used? Until now, we have found no clues in this aspect.
4. 数据之谜
The mystery of numbers. Several precise equations shown by a few numbers have puzzled archaeologists, architects, geographers, and physicists. Equation 1. Pyramid weight x 10 to the power of 15 equals Earth's weight. Equation 2. Pyramid height x 1 billion equals distance from Earth to the Sun, 150 million kilometers. Equation 3. Pyramid height squared equals area of pyramid face triangle. Equation 4. Pyramid base perimeter, pyramid height equals circumference, radius. Equation 5. Pyramid base perimeter x2 equals equator's time degree. Equation 6. Pyramid base perimeter slash pyramid height x2 equals pi equals 3.14159. Who would believe that these figures are just coincidences? Furthermore, the longitude running through the pyramid is the meridian of the Earth, a line that divides the land and oceans into equal halves. The foundations of the pyramids are located right in the gravitational center of each continent. In addition, the dimensions of the Great Pyramid and the magnitude of the North Hemisphere are extremely similar in proportions. Thus, it has been inferred that the Egyptians worked out the oblateness of the Earth 4,000 years ago. The positions of the axes of the Earth's 2 poles are changing every day, but after a cycle of 25,827 years, they return to their original positions. The sum of the diagonals of the pyramid is 25,826.6. We know that the Pythagorean law was not discovered until 1,000 years after the completion of the pyramid, and that not until 300 years later did Zhu Chengji work out the circumference ratio to such accuracy. The accurate calculation of the ratio came out in the West until the 16th century. Columbus discovered America 4,000 years after the completion of the pyramid, and from then, people began to have an initial understanding of the distribution of oceans and land in the world. Today, nearly 5,000 years after the completion of the pyramid, we are finally able to work out the weight of the Earth and the distance between the Sun and the Earth. But how could people 4,500 years ago conduct such accurate calculations?
5. 万古长存之谜
The mystery of its long-lasting existence. It is said that of the 7 great wonders of the ancient world, some have collapsed, some have disappeared with the passage of time, and only the pyramids have stood the test of time and still stand towering. What is the secret to their permanent existence? Let's first do an experiment. Pour a certain amount of rice, sand, and gravel respectively, and soon 3 cones will be formed. Although they are different in quality, they are quite similar in shape. If you conduct a measurement, you will find that their cone angles are all 52 degrees. This naturally formed angle is the most stable angle and is called the limiting angle and stable angle of natural falling. Strangely, the angles of the pyramid are exactly 1.50.9 degrees. This shows that it has been built according to the limiting angle and stable angle. The wind in the desert is fierce. Due to the unique shape of the pyramid, the strong wind is forced to slowly rise along the slope or edges of the tower. The windward side of the tower becomes smaller and smaller from bottom to top. When it reaches the top, the windward side approaches zero. This unique shape, which uses softness to overcome hardness, minimizes the destructive power of the wind. People also know that the directional effect of magnetic lines can cause ground structures and even mountains to collapse. This pyramid is located at the center of the magnetic lines, and it moves with the movement of the magnetic lines and the Earth. Therefore, the amplitude it experiences is extremely weak, and earthquakes have little impact on it. The mystery of the stability of the pyramid lies in its 52-degree angle, pyramidal shape, and synchronous movement with the magnetic lines. But who can tell us how the ancient people 4,500 years ago knew that a 52-degree angle was a stable angle? How did they know to use a pyramid shape to resolve desert storms? And how did they know to lay the huge foundation of the tower at the center of the magnetic lines?
6. 微波谐振腔体和宇宙波
Microwave resonance